Alison Rosen.
Joe Rogan.
We made it happen.
Finally.
It's going down.
Years in the making. Here I am.
I know. It's one of those things we talked about it like 30 times.
I know. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's my birthday, no less.
Oh, shit. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're 21 now, right?
That's right. Finally. Going to have my first drink.
Wow, legal.
So much to explain. Well, I've been drinking for years illegally. Come on.
You shouldn't admit that on the internet. How old are you for real? Are you allowed to tell you? To say? Are you one of those people?
No, it's obscene. It's obscene how old I've become.
How old are you?
41.
Whoa, that's not obscene. I'm 48.
Really?
Yes, that's obscene. I'm almost 49.
Feels obscene.
I'm almost 50.
Happy almost birthday.
Yeah, I'll be 50 in a couple months and a year. Whoa.
How do you feel about
shit.
that?
Sexy as fuck. Feel great.
I feel like you're making almost 50 look good. I also feel like
Thank
there's
you.
a hair stuck to my lip. So for anyone who's watching, and if there's like a fuzzball on my face, I'm sorry. It's just a 41-year-old thing.
I don't think we have our HD's not that strong.
Oh, really?
I don't think
I should have just left it there then. Whatever it is, that the lint that I've collected since arriving deep in the valley.
One thing I do realize, though, as I get older, is like maintaining health is like an effort.
Yeah.
Like you have to be a lot more aware of making sure you eat the right stuff, making sure you make sure you exercise on a regular basis. Don't get out of shape, because if you get out of shape, it's way harder.
You can't get back in.
It's way harder to get back in.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you are such a healthy guy. Did you ever go through a phase when you were younger of being unhealthy?
Not really, no. I never went through like a binge drinking or fat phase.
Right.
I mean, like I've gotten overweight slightly before, but even then, I'd look at myself, I'm like, you fucking disgusting slob, like get it together. I just, it's, there's two schools of thought on it. One school of thought is that if you spend too much time on your body, that you're vain, and it's as a frivolous pursuit because you're going to die anyway,
right.
and it's all pointless. But I feel like that's kind of a cop-out, because I think that you only have this one meat vehicle to get you through this life. And if it was a car, you'd maintain it. If you have a nice car, what do? You take care of the oil, you get it serviced. You deal with all the stuff that makes it run nice.
Right.
And I think that you've got to do that with your body. At least for me, I have to do that with my body. If I don't, I feel like I'm slacking off in a way that's lazy and irresponsible and stupid. I just see too many people with health consequences because they don't take care of their bodies.
I think it depends. I think if you're saying it's self-absorbed and it's vain and it's shallow to care about your body, and if you're saying that as an excuse to allow yourself to not get into shape, then I think that you're not really facing what's going on. And like that thing where you're like, oh, it's just shallow. You're not really addressing what the actual resistance is. I don't know. I think for me, I got into a phase where I was going to a personal trainer and I got really into it. And for the first time, all this stuff that I'd heard my whole life about how because I'm not a sports person, so about how like sports can affect the rest of your life. I never understood that. I never understood the mental part of it. But for that time, and I'm not really in that place anymore, but for the time that I was super into it, I felt better. I definitely did. And I felt like I can put in effort in the gym, and it's the effects, not in terms of what you see on my body, but how I feel, are immediate. And also that thing of like, this is a challenge for me, but I'm going to dig deep and I'm going to do it. And it like set these little goals for myself almost every day that I could overcome. And that was kind of insane, that feeling, how good I felt when I did something that I didn't think I could do. And it was happening, multiple times a week.
I just think it's almost, it's not overlooked with a lot of people, but with some people it is overlooked. And I think it's unfortunate because it's thought of as like a vain pursuit, or pursuit of vanity. And it's it really restructures the way your brain functions. When you regularly exercise and your body pumps out all those endorphins and you release all that stress and your body sweats and it just feels like it's flowing better, like everything's going, like your decisions are better, the way you feel about things is better. You leave the gym, you have a smile on your face, you're driving your car, the sun feels better.
Right. Well, and that thing where it's like, I did something healthy for me today. Can I ask a question about something that you said earlier that actually kind of ties into all of this. You said that when the times of your life where you would get a tiny bit overweight, you'd look in the mirror and you'd think like, oh, I forget exactly what you said, but like, oh, you disgusting fat slob or something. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking a lot lately about the ways that we talk to ourselves, because I can be so brutal on myself. And I've really, as I've gotten older, and I think we've made it clear, I'm very old. I've tried to go more gentle on myself, because it's like I don't speak to anyone the way I speak to myself.
Right.
But I do. Well, here's the question: do you think there's good that comes out of being really shitty to yourself?
The good is the reaction to that, where you don't like that feeling, and then you do something different. Because I think if you just look at yourself and you look in the mirror and go, fucking awesome, and you tuck your gut into your shirt and tuck your shirt into your pants, and you just go about your day and then have a heart attack, I don't think you're going to get the results that you really want. I think if you want your body to work well, you have to be honest. Mm-hmm. And if you have slacked off and you have gained weight, or you have eaten a bunch of shitty food and you feel like really just slow and sludgy, and you know that feeling that you get if you just indulge too much or drink too much, that the drinking too much is a bad one. Like last time we did that podcast here with Stanhope, I fucking tried to brush my teeth with deodorant. I had deodorant out and I had my toothbrush. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, my brain was so scrambled from just getting hammered. I'm like, that's just a bad feeling. It's fun while you're doing it. I believe there's an expression, I forget who, was it Oscar Wilde? All things in moderation, including moderation.
Yes.
I think it's a great expression. I think you got to enjoy your life. But, man, that feeling after indulging is where your body is just wrecked. It's a terrible feeling. And I think the only way to, for me at least, to move past that is to go, all right, fuckface, no more of that stupid shit, and then get on the right track.
See, I would find back when I used to indulge in everything more, the feeling of indulging and the feeling of I'm doing something that I don't think I'm really okay with the fact that I'm doing it made me feel estranged from myself. And then it's like I wanted to keep the party going. There were so many nights, because I don't indulge in much anymore, because it was kind of getting out of hand. And this is many years ago that I'm talking about, because I've been on the planet a lot of years. I'll stop with that.
Like, you call yourself, that's a true podcaster. You're like, ooh, some people might find this annoying. Yeah.
I'm not sure when I'll stop with it, but I think I'll stop with it. But, I would be out and it would be 1:30, 2:30, the time when most people would just go home. And I didn't want to go home because I didn't want to be with myself. I just wanted to go home with whatever guy I was talking to in the moment.
Okay, so you just wanted to escape.
Yes. I wanted to escape, and then I wanted to escape myself.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a very honest way of looking at it. And I think a lot of people feel like that. Like a lot of what the partying is distraction from their own problems or the goals that they haven't tried to go after, those sort of nagging problems in their life they're not working on.
Totally.
The mind works in such a weird way, where you chase after distractions sometimes with all this vigor, but you don't do the same with the actual real issues in your life. Mm-hmm. You don't chase after them.
Right. Because there's no immediate gratification in doing so.
Yeah, but there's no, even the immediate gratification in chasing after distractions, it's so obvious what you're doing while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Not always to yourself, though.
No. Well, I guess not. It is if you're paying attention, but most times you're not.
Yeah.
It's weird how many different sort of like mechanisms the brain has in place to protect you from all the blind spots.
Right, from discomfort.
Yeah. And all the things that are wrong with your approach, know?
Yeah, I sort of feel like, well, now tell me, is this a self-absorbed way to go through the world? I kind of feel like the point of being on this earth, one of the points, is self-awareness. And to figure out what you're doing and why you're doing it, and to kind of become self-actualized. It
certainly helps you be more efficient at what you're doing and also realize what it is you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it's an experience, and it's an experience that restarts every day. You go to bed, it shuts off, you wake up and you go, here we go again. And you assume that this is the same life, and you assume that you're not just waking up in some sort of computer program that pretends that you have 41 years of memories. You go about your day, and if you want to make the most out of it, you have to be aware of these mistakes that you keep repeating,
Right.
and sort of just try to not do that anymore and try to get better. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fucking start eating vegan. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start taking yoga. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start. And you look at like these things as like positive sort of directions that you could get on that maybe will change, and then you like fall off the vegan wagon or you fall off the yoga wagon, you start drinking again, and it's like this constant cycle with a lot of people of like, you know, going on diets and then fucking up, and you know, eating cake, starting an exercise program and then getting fat again. And it's, I think being self-aware helps you to have moments of reflection, and I think meditation is really important too. That's a big one that a lot of people don't like to do. Spend time alone by yourself doing nothing. Do it 20 minutes a day. Just sit down and breathe. Sit down and think, and it will help you tremendously. Because we're on momentum all the time.
Yes. I actually, yesterday, I began to feel overwhelmed just from just a bunch of stuff going on. And in the moment, I was just like, I felt kind of shaky. And I'm happy to say I did not go to the kitchen and try to find something to eat to just, you know, like sort of my old things that I would have done. I made myself take some deep breaths and tried to calm down. I don't know how well it worked, but at least I felt like that was a healthy way to deal with it in the moment.
Well, I think it definitely worked, right? Because you're talking about it. So
that's true. Well, I'm here today, so
you made it. But you know what I mean? Like you're aware that you wanted to reset your thinking. So you spent some time and you took some deep breaths and you reset your thinking. I think that's real important for people, because how many times do you just get in a momentum?
You just react.
I used to date this girl. She used to have crazy road rage. It was hilarious because she wasn't like a big girl or a dangerous girl or anything like that. But when someone cut her off, she's like, "You motherfucker!" And she would like gun the gas and get beside them and swerve in front of them.
Jeez,
she was so crazy. She's from Chicago people. I'm just kidding. But she was just like really aggressive that way. And I had to tell her, I go, you can't do that with me in the car. I go, because we could die. Like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like and she was just like so caught up in the momentum of her emotions, and this motherfucker thinks he can cut me off, bitch. It was like this thing that she had done like all the time, and she had never thought about it.
Right.
And in addressing it and calming down and breathing, she was like, yeah, I guess I should probably stop doing that. But it's this momentum of this pattern of behavior that's cut so deep. It's such a groove that you always comfortably fall into.
Well, it's like you're... It's that
bulletproof coffee.
It's that bulletproof coffee in my throat. It's like written into your operating software. There are certain people that are programmed to see the world in a way where it's like people are trying to screw me over, and I'm not going to let that happen. And so they'll see it everywhere, even where it isn't.
Yeah.
Excuse the coffee in my throat.
I got to stop drinking this stuff. We should come up with a better way. Maybe that emulsified MCT oil. Maybe that's the move. Without the butter, give it a shot. That's next move. Sorry.
No, that's it. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
I think everybody does that. I think it's normal, and especially if you have been fucked over before, then you start thinking, oh, it's everywhere. God damn it, these fucking people, they're everywhere.
Yeah, I'm not going to be blindsided again.
It's when you actually get fucked over, like in a business deal or with someone who's trying to fuck you over, like financially or something like that. It's like it's very disturbing. It's like, oh, this is a real criminal. I'm involved with a criminal. Someone's trying to rob me.
Has that happened to you?
Yeah, definitely. And when it does happen, you just realize like, whoa, okay. All right, well, some people, this is what they do. And you have to now throw that into the mix. Like, this is a possibility. Some people are just kind of try to steal money from you.
For me, I would need to go back. Still affecting my throat. Excuse me. I would need to, I would begin to think about everything, and I would be like, when was the point at which this started? And I would have to kind of reconsider everything. And that is my own obsession with, sort of like we were talking before, the way that I can prevent this happening in the future is to really understand how this happened now. But I think I get a little too... I mean, I can really, like, I can ruminate on something too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we all can. I think also if something's important to you, and you really want something to work out well, whether it's a podcast you're doing or a comedy show or something like that, you can kind of obsess on things too much. You can get so involved in the details that you kind of, the old expression, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Totally. But like what we were saying earlier about I was saying about trying to talk to myself differently, this might make people barf because it's so hippy dippy new age, like Stuart Smalley almost. But lately I've been thinking, like, is that a loving behavior towards myself that I'm engaging in? So if I'm ruminating about something or obsessing about something or thinking about something that's upsetting me, like, am I being loving towards myself? And then in thinking that way, after I finish vomiting, I think it allows me to actually kind of move on, to like put those thoughts down,
right?
Which is a pretty new thing for me because I have been at the mercy of my thoughts always.
Well, for me, I think I try to avoid a lot of negative behavior and negative thinking because if I allow it, and I always think of myself as like, okay, if I was giving myself advice, how would I treat it? And I'd probably be pretty brutally honest. So negative thinking and negative behavior, I try to avoid it almost for the consequences of me chastising myself. Like, I don't want to chastise myself. I want to like me. So if I'm fucking up, like, I don't want to hear me going, come on, pussy, get it together. So there's that part of me, like, it's almost like a drill instructor is like looking over my shoulder, making sure that I don't fuck, because like, bitch, I'm right here. Like, I know what you're doing, stupid. Don't get dumb. And I've been dumb, and I think we have all been dumb. And I just think all that self-love and self-help is great, but not if it allows you to continue the same patterns over and over again and still love yourself. That's
where you have to really be honest and make sure that you're rigorously honest with yourself.
Yeah. You can still love yourself and tell yourself you're a fat fuck.
Sometimes that's the most loving thing. I gently, lovingly tell myself I'm a fat fuck.
You say it with such a giant, sweet smile.
That's the loving part.
Yeah. Well, it's not bad to be honest. And you still love yourself, even if you've been eating cake all day. Like, look, I love you, but you're going to fucking die of an insulin crash here.
Well, but see, that's where it's like, is it loving? I'm really married to this barfy idea. Is it loving to eat cake all day? No. Like, you're not treating yourself right if you're doing that.
The real problem is that mouth pleasure is not even that good. Like, the mouth pleasure that you get from eating cake is the first bite.
I'm thinking about that.
Like
I know what you mean.
It's like the first bite or the second bite, maybe. But then when you get deep into it, it's kind of sickening.
Yes.
You just keep going. Like my kid had a birthday party the other day, and we eating her cake, and I was like, oh, fucking Christ, this stuff is so disgusting. I only had a tiny little bit. Because I'm like, you get into it, and especially if you don't eat a lot of cake, like after like the third or fourth bite, you're like, ugh, like this fucking pasty frosting and sugar. And
are you one of those people who pushes all the frosting to the side and is like, oh, it's too sweet, I can't. I'll just have a bite of the wheat germ.
No, I go for the frosting first.
Okay, same.
Yeah, everybody does. Yeah. That's where the love is.
Although, that's true. I gave up carbs for about a year.
All carbs?
Mm-hmm. All carbs. Like, I was very strict about it. I was looking at I was trying not to overdo. I was kind of trying to do like strict Atkins. So eventually I allowed more vegetables in. But at the beginning I was trying not to go overboard with that. And then I stopped.
What was your response to that? Your body's response?
At the beginning, so my story is I was pretty overweight growing up and into my 20s. And then, I had kind of gone up and down. And then I finally lost the bulk of it, and I've kept it off for years. But about a year ago, it started creeping back on a little bit because I'm doing IVF. I'm trying to get pregnant, and I'm shooting myself with hormones all the time. And all the things in the past, all the ways in the past that I'd kept the weight off, because it had been, about 10 years of really being careful with my calories and exercising and all that, like, it just wasn't working anymore. And it was freaking me the fuck out. So that's when I started going to a personal trainer, and that's when and it was not his advice. I don't know what made me decide to do it. I was like, maybe if I just cut out all carbs, that'll help. So at the beginning, I did lose weight. But then it no longer helped in terms of then at a certain point I realized, oh, the weight comes on at a certain point in the IVF cycle and then comes back off in between cycles and goes back. And I realized that I had been freaking out, but it's just cycling on its own.
For people that are freaking out right now, in vitro fertilization.
Yes.
They're like, what the fuck is IVF?
Sorry. In vitro fertilization is where they fertilize your eggs outside of your body. It actually, in vitro is in glass, is what it means. And it's a way that people who can't get pregnant naturally can get pregnant. And it involves injecting a lot of hormones, and it's a whole thing. So anyway, it was affecting my weight. I believe that now that is what was affecting my weight, but I was freaking out at the time. So initially there was some weight loss, and then that stopped. But I found for a while I enjoyed living within very strict guidelines. It was just easier when we go to a restaurant. Because I used to joke that I would like to be buried in a bread basket with a fuck ton of butter. Like, bread and butter is my thing. And when we go to a restaurant and they bring the bread, like, I don't even touch it. It's not mine. It was nice to not even have to think about all these things. Mm-hmm. But then, I don't know, a few months ago, I just thought, I don't feel like this is really doing anything for me anymore. And I miss my lean cuisine dinners, which is what I used to eat.
Lean cuisine?
They're
That's
not bad.
That's what you miss?
I know.
Out of all the things you could miss?
I know. Well, healthy choice dinners as well.
What the fuck are you doing with that processed bullshit?
I know. I had stopped eating the processed bullshit.
That's all bullshit.
I missed the bullshit. I missed the wood pulp.
What is wood pulp?
It's probably some kind of filler in there.
What
I'm
do you
just
mean?
saying.
There's wood pulp in your food?
In Parmesan cheese, I think.
What?
Didn't that come out recently?
What?
Right? Yeah. Jamie knows.
Jamie, what are you talking about? What kind of Parmesan cheese?
In just the bottle of Kraft Parmesan cheese, it came out that a certain percentage of it is like wood shavings or something.
What? Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ! Why are they putting wood in your cheese?
So that there's it's bigger.
At the end of the day, wood is just plants, though. Parmesan
That's right.
cheese you sprinkle. What? Cellulose. Okay, hotly contested, but perhaps not for reasons you might think. FDA investigation found that a Pennsylvania company, Castle Cheese Incorporated, had doctored its so-called Parmesan with a mix of cheap cheddar cheese and cellulose, also known as wood pulp.
Oh,
Whoa.
well, if you say cellulose, that doesn't sound as bad.
Yeah, cellulose just sounds like fiber from plants.
Like plant material.
Yeah. Well, there shouldn't be plant material in fucking cheese, you cunts. Assholes. You should go to jail for that. Putting fucking wood in cheese. You can't just do that. And you can't mix cheddar cheese with wood and call it Parmesan. Assholes.
No, it should have its own new variety name.
Yeah, wood pulp cheesy thing.
Right.
Just call it that.
Yeah.
People would buy it.
My mouth is watering.
Well, you're eating lean cuisines.
I'm just saying, I don't know what it is in the processed frozen dinners that I like, but that's what I like. Sort of like when I smoked, I was like, yeah, I think it's the fiberglass in the cigarettes that I like.
When my wife was pregnant, she liked Tonino's pizza rolls. You know those little fucking disgusting things?
I've not had them, but I've seen them in the freezer section.
I was buying them for her. I can't believe you're actually willing to eat this shit. She ate healthy most of the time, but like she would just want to like veg out and sit there holding onto her beach ball stomach. She would just eat Tonino's pizza rolls.
Now, how are you towards your wife and your kids in terms of...
I beat them. I tie them up. Do whatever the fuck I want. I win. No. How am I in terms of diet?
Yeah, and in terms of being like rigorously honest or letting them kind of come to their own conclusions.
Well, I don't need to do that with my wife. She's on the ball, and she's like pretty healthy too. But she also likes to indulge. But she's not. She's pretty balanced in terms of like how she approaches diet and exercise and healthy eating, and then occasionally indulging. She's balanced. Like, luckily, that's not an issue. And for my kids, with kids, the big struggle is trying to keep them from eating too much sugar. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to be that guy that says you can't have sugar. Like, she has some kids in her class. One of my daughters does. There's this one kid in particular that's on this insane diet. Like, he doesn't eat any sugar. There's nothing processed. And the kid's freaking out all the time because all around him, kids are eating cake and having all these things. And I feel like that can set you up psychologically. So in a bad way, where you develop this.
Where you want to binge later, or
well, yeah, I think when your parents tell you not to eat, you want to eat. You know, when parents tell you not to be a slut, it's the first thing you want to do, right? It's what everybody does. You know, don't drink. I can't wait to drink. You know, the suppression is just not good for human beings. And so what I try to tell them is you can have a little sugar, but you have to be aware that sugar is just not good for your body. It tastes good, but it has consequences. So like when we'd go Halloween trick-or-treating, you know, we'd let them have a couple of pieces of candy. You know, like you have a couple of, you just can't sit and eat that shit until you go into a coma. It's not good for you. So sometimes they repeat it, like, I don't like when I eat too much sugar. It just makes me feel terrible. But then sometimes, like, my youngest is fucking crazy. My youngest is like a little barbarian. She'll eat sugar and then run around the house roaring, like she just stormed the beaches. She like throws her arms back, like, ah! And she'll like run around the house like sugared up. I'm like, this is insane. We just gave her rocket fuel or something. Because you think about like a little tiny body, right? My youngest is 5. She's almost 6. And she's, I don't know what she weighs, probably like less than 50 pounds. So if you give her a fucking candy bar, like how much sugar is in a goddamn candy bar? And it's going in that tiny little body. And she just reacts to it. She's like, ah! Like she'll just chase me. She'll kick me. She fucking tries to tackle me. She just goes nuts. She's like really, really physical. When she's like sugared up, it's like super obvious.
Right.
I'm like, that can't, I mean, as long as she's burning it off, I feel like let her just run around until she gets crazy and burn it off. But
it's like her 5-hour energy.
Yeah, what's worse, it doesn't really last 5 hours. It lasts about 40 minutes, and then there's a crash. Like, Daddy, I don't feel good. Daddy, I'm tired. I just want to lie here. It's hilarious because, you know, they don't have an experience in life, you know. Right. So when they taste the sugar, it tastes good. They eat it. They have this feeling like, you know, like, oh, I have a sugar rush coming on right now. Nope, they don't think like that. They just go, I need to run right now. But, you know, I'm not 100% strict, but I do make them eat vegetables. That's the one thing I do. I make them eat vegetables, and I try to keep them away from shitty food. And I just try to explain why it's good. Like, this is why Daddy likes to eat this. Like, they always mock me that I don't eat bread, and, you know, they'll like to stick things in front of my face that they eat and I don't eat. But most of the time, I don't suppress them. I try to just keep a health. Like, even when they do something wrong, one of the first things that I say is, I did way worse than you. Like, if they did something wrong, I said, I used to do that all the time when I was your age. A matter of fact, I think you're smarter than me. Like, you're better at it than me. And I always do that. I always reinforce that every mistake you've made, I've made. Everything you've done, I've done. If you lied, I've lied. Like, if I catch them lying about something, not telling the truth, I just say, look, I just want to tell you, when I was little, I lied all the time. And I didn't want to lie, but I didn't want to get in trouble. And so I would just lie.
Is that true, or is that a lie, though?
I did some lying. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think every kid has. But I just wanted to enforce in their head, like, I'm not going to not love you. I'm not going to, this is a part of life.
I think that's so great. That's such a respectful way to raise your kids.
That's how I try to treat them, like they're little human beings that I know more than they know. I don't think of them as my kids in that, like, I own them. I think of them like they're my kids in terms of I love them deeply, but not like, I don't own you. Like, you're a little human being. And I also think that setting them up like that gives them a certain amount of autonomy and a certain amount of independence that I think is, like, really critical to develop early on, so that's not a giant shock when you turn 18.
Yeah.
You know, like, to slowly build them into this idea, you are a little autonomous human being. And I'm always going to be here. Like, if you need advice, if you need a hug, if you need, you know, you always got a place to sleep, you don't have to worry. Like, everything's fine. Like, don't go through life with fear and hunger. You know, that you don't have to worry about that. You have a family. But you're your own thing. Like, what are you into? You into music? What are you into? You like space? You know, what are you into? You like reading books? Like, what's your fucking thing? Find your thing. And I never had that chance as a kid, you know, and I think looking at my life, like, back at, like, the things that happened to me that made me sort of, like, rebel and made me sort of reinforce the idea that I need to be independent. I need to get the fuck away from all these people. I need to stop all this negative input coming from all these different directions. Like, I sort of, in having children, get a chance to re-engineer what I would have liked about my own childhood.
Did you have an oppressive upbringing?
Wasn't oppressive. It just was, there wasn't a lot of attention. It was like my parents really just weren't into it.
Right.
You know, I think there was a lot of latchkey kids in our generation, and I mean, I used to just walk out the door when I was 7 and wander through the neighborhood. I did a Fisherman's Wharf magic show when I was 8 years old. Like, who the fuck lets their 8-year-old? Like, my daughter just turned 8. One of my daughters did, and I couldn't imagine her just walking out my house in San Francisco and wandering down the street and being by herself with no one. I can't imagine that. And so I would think about like what my parents let me do, and you know, made me independent in a lot of ways. But God, it put me in so much danger. There's so many times. Yeah,
I think if you're forced to be an adult when you're a child, you pay for it somehow later.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there's pros and cons. You know, if you can get through it all, you have a more comprehensive view of the world and the dangers it provided. But I mean, I was almost molested when I was like 8 by some fucking creep at a library that I was hanging out at. And the librarian saved me. I was I was into monster movies when I was a little kid. I was really into like Dracula and Frankenstein shit. So I was looking through these books, and this guy came up to me, and he was like really weird. And he said, you know, you like monster books? And I go, yeah. And he goes, I love monster books. I've got some monster books in my car. Do you want to see them?
It's like, I've got Dracula in my pants. You want to?
Exactly. And so I'm like, okay. You know, I didn't know any better. And so I started walking with him, and the librarian starts yelling at me because she had seen me there before, and, you know, she's a real nice lady, and she's like yelling, Joseph, you get away from that man. He just got out of prison.
Jeez.
And the guy ran. He ran. And I just started crying. I couldn't believe it. And, you know, I remember thinking at the time, like, who the fuck just lets a little kid just wander around like they do?
Right.
So
at the time you thought that?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember thinking that at the time. Like, why the fuck am I just wandering around here?
Did you tell your parents?
Yeah. What's fucked up is my mom didn't remember it. Like, I talked to my mom about it recently. She didn't remember. I'm like, how do you not remember this guy trying to molest me when I was 8?
Right.
Like, I got upset at her.
What was her reaction to you getting upset?
It's just that was that latchkey thing. Like, yeah, you're fine. Look, nothing happened. You know?
Right.
It's like they had this attitude.
Well, I think for the longest time that was the attitude of like, look, I kept you physically safe. You're in clothing. You went to school, whatever it is, you know. So what's the problem? And it's like, well, there's all the whole emotional side of things.
Yeah. Well, I think when you look at our generation versus our parents' generation and their parents' generation, if you just go back a couple generations to like my grandparents' days, my grandparents are immigrants. They came over on a boat from Italy and Ireland. And when you think about what their life was like versus what our life is like today, I mean, we're barely even related. We're so different with our access to information, with the understanding that people have about raising people, about communicating with people, about talking to yourself even.
Even your reference to going to the library is anachronistic.
Yeah. It is, right? I mean, imagine you having that kind of a conversation with your parents when they were your age about loving yourself. Am I being loving myself?
I know.
They'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Go out there and farm.
Even I feel that way towards myself, though. I guess I'm an old soul. So, okay.
I think you're introspective. So you're looking at yourself and you're like, am I being a dork? Like, what is this?
Right.
You know? It's more that than anything, I think.
Yeah.
So you trying to get pregnant? Still?
Yes. We actually haven't transferred any of the embryos. We've just been collecting them, and they're frozen. And we are about to start the first transfer in the next couple weeks.
Whoa.
So
you're making a Frankenstein, baby.
That's right.
Some science involved.
I know. I was listening to you and Whitney Cummings were talking about that. And it is crazy. And a weird thing is that you could have, like, let's say of all of our embryos, 2 of them are good and will create babies. If they happen to be implanted at the same time, then I will give birth to twins. But if not, and we go another round, then I could have kids, a couple years apart. And like that's what we're like. You end up doing all this weird math of like, how many should I implant to maximize the chance of getting pregnant, minimize the chance of multiples. I don't know. It's weird.
They take your egg and they take your husband's sperm and they mix it up in a lab somewhere.
Yes. Well,
they do it with lightning bolts and shit. They raise the table up to the sky.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything goes dark for a second and very quiet.
It's alive.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
It's crazy that they can freeze the embryos. That's the freakiest one.
And I think normally, or I think traditionally what they do is they take the eggs and then they take the sperm and they put it together in a petri dish and then just kind of let it do its thing. But for certain people, they do something called ICSI, which is, let's see if I can, it's intracytoplasma something sperm injection. So they take the sperm and they literally inject it. And I don't know how. Like they must have the tiniest little needle into the egg. So it's even more minute. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that they can do that.
And I worry about that because what if you catch a weak load that way? Like a weak load gets lucky. Like I would always want the strong sperm to bust through the egg.
Right.
Instead, you get some.
Well, I think that they're using analysis to get rid of the weak ones.
They do sperm analysis.
They do.
They have
oh my God, that's like the first thing.
Like buds.
Yeah.
Like buds camp for sperm, and the weak ones they ring the bell.
They take all the sperm. They drive them far into the mountains. They drop them off. They give them one peanut, and they say, "We'll come back for you in 3 weeks. And if you're still here, we're going to inject you into an egg."
They give you a Swiss Army knife and a fucking piece of shoestring.
Yeah.
Figure it out, stupid.
Right. They take away your shoelaces, and they say, "You have a lot of thinking to do. You've been very bad sperm.
It's time to make a person stupid."
No, but I get what you're saying in terms of natural selection. IVF is circumventing all of that because it's taking a whole bunch of women who are past the age that they can get pregnant naturally, and it's allowing them to get pregnant.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
It is in a way, but if you make an awesome person that way,
that's the hope. Well, I mean, yeah. There's also that argument, which is, but the people who are doing it are people who have tried to be responsible and wait until they're at a point in life when they can have kids versus like a 22 or 23-year-old who, and I'm sure there's plenty of great, actually I've never met them, but they're probably out there who've had kids that young and it all turned out well. They can get pregnant pretty easily usually, but I feel like most people in their early 20s aren't really ready to have kids yet. I just feel like we're getting emotionally ready later, but our biology is staying the same.
Yeah. 100%. Well, that's one of the things that I always think about when I think about my mom. Like, my mom had me when she was 21. It means she got pregnant when she was 20. And when she was 21, she had a baby. When I was 21, I was a fucking moron.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being forced to raise a kid when I was 21. I was so irresponsible. I couldn't take care of myself. And I think the natural process of people getting pregnant really young. I mean, like, how strange is it with human beings that you're essentially able to get pregnant when you're 13?
Right.
That's
crazy.
That's
just crazy.
Fucking crazy. So my daughter, who is just turned 8, she's got 5 years she can get pregnant. That's insane. She's a tiny little thing, a little person, a little baby person.
Right.
And like that little baby person can have a baby inside of them. That's madness. It's just our biology is so it's so irresponsible in that way.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, it's just such a weird holdover from a time that we can't even remember when it made sense to get pregnant at 13.
Well, yeah, we can't remember, but that's the weirdest thing about biology, right? Is that the changes that take place naturally, they occur over long periods of time, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. But the changes taken place in our culture and our society over the last 1,000 years has been insane. I mean, the massive amount of difference between living in 1016 versus 2016 is just, you can't even, it's barely like the same life.
Do you think the amount of change that we have recently is the same amount of change that there has always been historically, though? Or do you feel like things are like speeding up?
They're definitely accelerating. They're accelerating because of technology, 100%. It's just the world we live in today is alien compared to the world of 1,000 years ago, or even a few hundred years ago. If you went 200 years ago and showed them how people are living today, they'd be like, holy shit. Even the crazy science fiction authors of the 1800s who, Jules Verne and, Orson Welles and all these crazy people that had all these great ideas about the future, they never thought of the internet. I mean, the internet is bizarre. The idea that it's not going to be metal spaceships that change us. It's not going to be laser beams that
we're not going to live in the sky.
No, way crazier than that. We're going to live in this one spot, but everything's going to be there for you.
Right.
Wirelessly.
And we're all going to be connected in that way globally.
Yeah, wirelessly. That's the most fucked up thing. When I was sitting at home the other day and somebody sent me a YouTube video and I was watching this crazy YouTube video. And as I'm watching, I'm like, how bizarre is that? Someone just sent me something. I press it, and now here I'm watching it. And it's playing out in front of me like not even 2 seconds after I've got the text message. I'm watching this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was listening to you recently talk about how you don't think that the human brain is really knows how to process celebrity, and that's why we end up putting the Kardashians. Stop me if I'm putting words in your mouth. But like that's why we end up putting Kardashians on a pedestal or something, because we're biologically historically wired to follow achievement and success and strength and things like that. But then you take people and put them on TV and turn them into idols, so to speak. And it's like that. Then our lizard brain goes, oh, you're someone who has achieved something. I should follow you. I was kind of thinking by the same token, I don't think that the human brain knows how to deal with technology, information, the internet, all of that. Because it's like, someone can say something shitty on the internet, and I don't get that bummed out by internet comments anymore. But there was a time where it's like someone says something shitty, my brain doesn't know how to regard that, like doesn't know how to prioritize that, how to see that in perspective. It just feels like, oh, someone close to me is saying something shitty, as opposed to like this is one comment in a sea of comments.
Yeah. Yeah, and also one person who you ordinarily wouldn't be in contact with.
Right.
You wouldn't want to hang out with them. You wouldn't like them. They decided to start judging you. But that's also the flip side of it is what you can do with your podcast is reach people that you would never contact.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can reach the world. And so you're going to have people reach back. It's part of what some people like about it is the ability to comment on something. And some of it's not valid at all. Like, you're going to get criticisms that are just not valid. They don't make any sense.
But I should say, like, that level of connection and that interaction is, I think, the best part of it. Mm-hmm. And there is just this sort of dark side that comes with it of like, yeah, you're going to hear some shit you wish you hadn't heard. But for the most part, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the most part, it's amazing. The thing that you were talking about with the Kardashians, that was something that Neil deGrasse Tyson just Instagrammed the other day. That was a conversation that he and I had when I did his podcast. And I really firmly believe that there's something about pointing a camera at someone and putting them on a screen that you look at them and it hijacks your reward system. The reward system that's designed to, say if there's like some the mother of this tribe and she's been alive for a long time and she has all this wisdom, and so when she talks in front of the fire, everybody sits down and listens. Why do they listen? Well, because she's survived. She's achieved. She's someone who you have to pay attention to because she knows things. And she knows things. So when she starts talking, you listen. That can all be hijacked by a fucking reality TV show camera on Bravo. And next thing you know, it's Real Housewives. And some pilled up bitch is screaming at her friend. And, we pay attention to them.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was at the, one of the people from that Real Housewives show has this... restaurant.
Is it Sir? And does it have to do with Vanderpump Rules, which I've recently become obsessed with?
Yeah, that lady's a fucking nut.
Lisa Vanderpump.
They're all nuts. They're fucking so crazy. But anyway, when my friend was at the restaurant, she said that lady walked in and people started losing their shit. Like, she's here, she's here, she's
well, that's
here.
probably why they're at the restaurant.
Yeah.
To see her, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then they were freaking out. They couldn't believe it. They were getting their phones out. They're looking up at her. I'm like, this is an incredibly unexceptional person. I mean, there's nothing about it. She holds her dog.
I mean, she has a restaurant
She
dynasty.
talks. She's got restaurants. But you know what I'm saying? Like, when you're listening to her talk, there's nothing that makes you like compelled to listen to her. There's no like really fascinating words coming out of her mouth. She doesn't have any skill. She's not an artist. She's not a singer. There's nothing there.
Well, and then you get to the sometimes I sort of get stuck in this mental eddy of like, well, what this person has created is a very watchable reality show.
Sure.
Like in terms of content, Kris Jenner, look at what she's created. But
Well,
I don't know. Is that art? I don't know.
Well, we love assholes. People love watching assholes.
Yes.
We love people screaming at each other. We love people sniping at each other. We love people doing shitty things to each other. And we love scenes that last 10 seconds. 10 seconds, boom, cut to the next thing. 10 seconds, boom, cut to like, what's happening now? Oh, what's happening now? Like, they know the exact amount of time. It's almost like they've got an algorithm, like when to change the camera scene, when to change the angle. And
well, have you ever, I'm going to guess you have not ever seen Vanderpump Rules?
no.
I have recently become, like I said, sort of addicted to it. And at the beginning, my husband would be like, so what is going on? He'd wander in, like, what's going on now? And I'm like, I honestly don't even know. It's like watching the screensaver I had in college, which was just fractals. It's just watching beautiful tan people yell at each other. It's mesmerizing, and it kind of it calms me down, but I'm not really paying attention. I'm just observing.
Well, I used to watch the Beverly Hills Housewives show just to get upset. And, you see these pilled up ladies yell at each other and then disappear to the bathroom. And then they would go to the bathroom. She's on pills. She's on pills. They'd bitch at each other and stuff. And it was weird. Like, they would try to hurt each other's feelings on camera. It was like so obvious.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's another thing is that, like, specifically with all of those shows, I can feel the producer slightly off camera feeding them lines, and it's like there's this drama that in real life wouldn't, like, really, are you really that upset about that? Because suddenly 6 people are upset about something that seems like not a big deal, and I feel like that existed on paper before they did those scenes.
Well, more importantly, your entertainment has been observing fools. Like, you've put fools on for half an hour on television. And that now becomes what your mind focuses on, instead of something really truly interesting, instead of something enlightening or something entertaining, or you're watching fools reluctantly with this like weird guilty feeling. You're like, oh, what am I doing? Why am I watching this? And then you realize, like, these are people that you would never want to hang out with in real life. And here on this,
I'd like to invite them on my podcast, but I hear what you're saying.
But what's weird is, if that was a drama, it was a show, and it was all completely made up, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting, because the narratives are really boring. It's like, we're going to go get shoes, we're going to go down the store together, and Debbie needs shoes. She doesn't think she needs shoes, but I'm telling her she needs fucking shoes.
But I can't believe she chose those shoes. Yeah. I would not wear those shoes, but I'm not going to tell her that.
And then there's that one girl who just says what's on her mind. She, people think she's a bitch, but she just
keeps it real.
She keeps it real. She speaks her mind. I'm just going to keep it real. I'm just going to keep it real. And, you have these, like...
She says what everyone else is afraid to say, except for the 6 other people who are also saying it.
We all think it, but we won't say it.
Yeah.
And she's the one who says it. She'll just go right in your face. She doesn't care. And, they're
That's
just...
Bethany for you.
But I know a couple of those people in real life, like from that show.
From Real Housewives of Beverly Hills?
And they're really sad. Like, really depressed and really sad. And the blowback from being on that show is atrocious. Like, their social media blowback, they read the comments, and they get devastated. Like, do you remember when Kelsey Grammer's wife was on that show for one fucking season, and she tried to like be like she tried to really play it up like she was, and they'll fucking hate the wave, the tsunami of hate.
Well, that's the thing I think that kind of happens from what you're saying about, like, we're watching fools, is you're not like, I'm watching a great piece of art or something.
Right.
We're watching you watch it with this idea that you're somehow better than the people you're watching. So I think it's like they become punching bags, and that must suck.
Oh, it has to suck, because, well, Kelsey Grammer, of course, and her were getting a divorce, and before they got a divorce, she got on the show. And when she got on the show, it was like really weird stuff. Like, she was hanging out with like actors and hopping on the motorcycle with them. And he's my friend. They drive like a good-looking guy with fucking great hair. And Kelsey Grammer's fat and gross. And she's riding off. She's kind of hot. She used to be in Playboy. So the whole thing was like, what is going on here? And she just had this crazy fucking shitty attitude and was flaunting it in front of all these people's face. But the thing is, I had met her before that, and she wasn't really like that at all.
Right. It was her reality show.
It's this thing they
personality.
do. They feel like they have to like play it up. And then I met her. I saw her at a party in the middle of that show, like when the hate was coming down, and she looked like the weight of the fucking world was weighing on her. Like when she was because so many people hated her, and then she got off the show. She was like, "Fuck this!" Like she was very smart in that way. But Kelsey Grammer had some interview where he did. He said that's what she always wanted, so I gave her what she wanted. And I knew she wasn't going to really want it, but
what she always
fame.
wanted?
That's what she always wanted. Because that was the whole thing. Like she had this little video that she did at the beginning of the show. And the beginning of it is like, I've always been in Kelsey's shadow, but it's time for me to step out and let the world
that's
know.
The beginning of all those shows.
Yeah. Let the world know who I am. Let my star shine. Or, one of those things. And the fucking, just the green monster of hate that descended upon her. You could feel it. And I know a couple of those people that are on that show, and that overwhelming negative message that you put out by being that person, and the response to millions of people hating you, like literally millions of people saying you're a dumb cunt. Like it's devastating. It's devastating because the people directly respond to whatever message that you're putting out there, and that message is compelling. That fucking Beverly Hills Housewife bitchy message is compelling.
Like I'm going to personify that low, petty, craven bitchiness that probably exists in all human beings. I'm going to be the embodiment of it. You think that like, in terms of what you put out in the universe, just brings it back to them?
I think, it's a distraction, obviously, right? Those shows are a distraction. Like all shows. I mean, you could say that about great shows like Game of Thrones. It's a distraction, ultimately. It's entertaining. And what is entertaining? You're sitting there, and you're pretending these things are happening, and you just go off with them. You get to go. But there's something different about, that Tyrion Lannister isn't really Tyrion Lannister. When you see these people, this is them. This is their actual face. This is their clothes they wear.
Right.
This is them talking to these other people. There's cameras on them. So it's this bizarre distortion of what is reality. And also, it's been real clear. There's a formula that's been established where if you can be the bitch on the show that makes a lot of noise, and you could keep it real, you could speak your mind. That girl gets a lot of attention.
Like it is. You can get a daytime talk show.
And when that girl gets a lot of attention, they keep the camera on her. When they keep the camera on her, the other girls go, "That fucking bitch is getting all this camera time." Like I know a couple of those girls that are outside of it, and they'll bitch that Brandy this and that, and now that's why they're fucking paying attention to her. But that fucking bitch and blah blah blah. So they ramp it up. They'll ramp up. They're like I've decided that this season I'm gonna be more bitchy, or I'm this season I'm gonna I'm gonna be more forceful because I've sat back. I'm not gonna let them edit me. They edit me. I know what they're doing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna give them anything to edit. Everything they do, I'm gonna fucking hit them like this.
Wow.
This is how I feel, and then you get caught up in this wave of crazy.
Right, of trying to manipulate the manipulators.
Yeah, and then you see it in their faces. They're just popping pills and drinking all the time, and dealing with what they asked for. They wanted this fame, and so they get it. But then you also get the hate part.
Have you
craziness
seen? A lot of famous people. In general, have you seen anyone enjoy fame? Because I feel like from what I've seen, it's a thing that people have to learn to manage, but it's never what they thought it was going to be.
Kevin Hart doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Kevin Hart's an interesting guy because he's a super positive guy, super positive, super motivated. Even when people shit on him, he doesn't shit on them back. Like he'll goof around with some comics that will go after him. He'll mock them and make fun of them, but he's always laughing. He's a really, really, really ambitious guy. So I think his level of what he's looking for, this is just part of the equation, and he just keeps going. He wants to be an Oprah. He wants to be a mogul.
Right.
That's his goal. So he seems to be handling it better than anybody I've ever met. But for most people, I think we all agree. We've had conversations about it. I've had a conversation about it with a bunch of different celebrities. And one thing that everybody seems to agree is you don't want to ever get as famous as Tom Cruise. There's a level of fame you don't want to hit. You don't want to be Brad Pitt.
Right. Why?
A buddy of mine is friends with Johnny Depp. And he says Johnny Depp can't go anywhere. He hangs out with them. There's these guys with earpieces that follow them everywhere. and they were in London staying at Johnny Depp's house, and he went to step outside to go get some cigarettes, and he walks outside, and there's these guys like standing there with earpieces on. Do you need a ride? Do you need to take you anywhere? And he's like, this guy can't go anywhere. Like
right,
he goes
you can't
to a
live your
restaurant.
life.
He goes to a restaurant and they swarm on him. Whereas some people can go to a restaurant and they can look over and they go, oh, that's Doug Stanhope. Or you look over, oh, that's Ron White. And they're famous, but they're not. It's not a crazy thing to see them. Here's a perfect example. Me and Kevin James were filming a movie and we were in Boston and we were hanging out in his hotel. And we're joking around and laughing, and out the window, we're like in front of this restaurant. Tom Cruise was at this restaurant, and we looked out the window. We saw Tom Cruise. We see people taking pictures of Tom Cruise, and then we see people on the street running towards the restaurant, fucking running because they heard that Tom Cruise was there. And we're watching this, and the glass is right here. We're pressing up against the glass so we can look at an angle. And I stopped and I go, how crazy is this? I go, here you are. You're a movie star. And you're like craning your neck to try to get a glimpse at Tom Cruise on the street at a restaurant across the street from you.
Yeah, he's the king of Queens right there.
But he's that famous that famous people freak out when he's around. Mm-hmm. Like he's way too famous. He's hit some weird, bizarre level.
Stratospheric
deity level. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's also
like so weird that people do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I'm not one of them, because I totally would be. But
if you want to be in movies, you want to be. If you want to be a superstar and you want to be in those gigantic blockbusters, that happens. It can happen, and it doesn't happen to a lot of people. But for every Samuel Jackson, there's 100 dudes who try to be like that. But for Tom Cruise, like that is like as famous as a person fucking gets in America, at least. There's no more famous person than that guy. So when you see that, it's compelling in some sort of strange way. Mm-hmm. Even for a movie star like Kevin James. He's a fucking famous guy. He's filming a movie. Starring in the movie, looking out the window. Can't believe he's seeing Tom Cruise.
It's weird. Like, celebrity in some way, it's like currency. And I don't mean for the person who is the celebrity. I mean for the person who, like, you're like, I am seeing something that most people don't get to see. Most people only see, in terms of most people's relationship with Tom Cruise, you see Cocktail and Top Gun and all his most recent films that I'm not naming because I don't know them. Excuse me. But here you are just seeing him at a restaurant. Like, that's something that most people don't get to see. Mm-hmm. It's like the rarity or the scarcity of it. You know what else I was thinking in terms of what it does to our brain when you see someone's face that's huge, and when you're sitting in a darkened theater and someone's face is 50 feet tall. That kind of replicates the way your parents and all adults appear to you when you're a baby. Like, as a baby, you're just sitting there, and there's these faces. They're huge, and they show up, and they're over you, and then they're gone, and I don't know.
Do you know that that's what a lot of psychologists believe are the origins of alien abduction memories?
I did not know that.
They believe the origins of alien abduction memories have to do with birth, and that's why that clinical, strange setting of being pulled out of your mother's womb, of seeing the light of those in this really white, sterile environment that seems cold and harsh, and the people with the masks on. Oh, right. Surgical masks and big eyes, that you see these things and they become iconic in your head. And you think of them not in terms of like a person with a mask on, but in terms of this like very strange distortion of reality. And these are the first images that a person has.
That's so interesting.
A human brain, when they're a baby, is very, very tiny, but obviously it's still a human brain. And so we don't really know how much data they store in terms of memories. Right. Because we don't have a context. Like, they can't talk about it. They can't. I mean, some people will claim that they have certain memories from early childhood, and it might be correct, but it also might be some sort of a rehashing of memories to the point where it's not really a memory.
Right, it's something you've heard.
Well, it's remembering how to describe a memory you once had. Like, the memory itself probably doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. You have a memory of how you told the memory, and that like really sort of distorts it too. But think of, like, visually, you've never seen anything. You've been in a womb. And then all of a sudden you get pulled out, and you get pulled out by a guy with a fucking giant light behind him. and he's got a mask on, and he's looking at you, and you're pulling. All you see is eyes in his face, and so that they believe that gets distorted into this iconic giant head, black giant eyes, and the cold sort of clinical antiseptic room, this white room with the light.
Right.
And that's why everyone has these abduction scenarios. They all deal with medical exams that are pretty preposterous. I mean, they're always going up your butt with stuff, and I think
that's right where the aliens go.
Yeah. I think that has to do with,
focused.
I think it's vulnerability, because like you think about your butt, and you're like, hey, get out of there. You know, like everybody thinks like that, right? So I think that's the one thing that you'd be terrified of. Like if the aliens had ultimate control over you, if you couldn't move your body, and what are they going to do? They're going to touch my body.
Yeah.
They're going to go inside my body. They're going in my butt. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I think that really makes a lot of sense.
I'd never heard that before, but that's really interesting. That does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, how good your eyes work when you come out of your mother?
Not that well.
Yeah.
No, everything's hazy.
Everything's hazy and weird. In the light, also, you've never seen light before. So you've seen this extreme light, this powerful light source, because everything has to be really bright so you could really get a good look at everything and make sure you're stitching up the vag good, you know, and getting in there and looking at the baby and making sure everything's in place, and then putting that baby in an incubator. Like, whoa.
And then if you're a boy, oftentimes circumcising.
They don't do it right there, do they?
No, I guess they wait a few days.
Still do that. God, I get text messages or tweets all the time from people that support my stance on circumcision. I think it's barbaric.
I do too.
It's creepy. It's crazy. The idea that
it's unnecessary nowadays.
100% unnecessary. There's this nonsense that it somehow or another prevents AIDS. Like, get the fuck out of here. There's no data. Zero. If you go look at the actual studies that try to back it up, they'll talk about it in third world countries. Like, there's still no data. You can't tell me that it all couldn't be the same exact result, couldn't be cleaning your dick. How about just clean your dick and don't cut a baby's dick?
Right. I know, because the amount of pain that I think the baby must feel.
Oh, it's also traumatic. It's like you're taking away like a certain amount of the child's freedom and decision making, like really early on, and you're cutting them. You're cutting for no reason. They're screaming, and a lot of babies lose their dicks, by the way. It's super common. Infection's really common. Babies die from it. I mean, it's not like one has ever died from it. A bunch die.
Right.
And there's a real problem with traditional Jewish methods because the moil actually sucks on the penis. I'm not making any of this up.
No, I know. I'm just grimacing.
It's disgusting. And they transfer herpes to the baby sometimes, and the babies die. And not just one, but many babies have died from getting herpes from a rabbi sucking on the baby's penis. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was watching this YouTube video once of this guy defending this practice. And he was, an old rabbi, and he was talking about how, it's in the faith, and if you believe in God, and but God came up with it the right way. And
does that make sense? I don't understand the link between cutting a piece of foreskin or cutting the foreskin and God. Like, that doesn't work. I'm a not religious person in general, so these things often don't link up in my head. But it's like, I just don't get it. How does that have anything to do with God?
It's ancient shit. It's back when people were stupid as fuck and they didn't have any data. It's really what it is.
I want to think that we are just as stupid now as we were then. But
no.
Yeah.
No.
I guess we're not.
We're not. We're not as stupid as people that lived in the 1920s. Try to watch a movie from like 1940 and watch how dopey people were. It's like, God, everyone was so dumb.
Yeah.
Like, it's like
they didn't even know how to be in color.
They were so strange and childlike in a lot of ways. Like, and the other thing is people they didn't have the access to information, they didn't live as long, and they didn't have anybody around them that had access to information the way they do.
Right.
For every scholar and every person who was deeply embedded in intellectual pursuits, you had millions and millions of people that just didn't give a fuck and were just trying to get by.
So I cut you off. You were saying that you were watching a rabbi talk about the importance of circumcision?
The importance of circumcision and doing it the traditional way where you suck on the baby's penis. And he was talking about that there's antiseptic properties in saliva and that it helps stop the bleeding. Like, fuck you.
Just
Dude,
don't
fuck
cause
you.
the bleeding.
Just
and you don't have to stop
I
it.
was so furious watching this asshole dressed like a wizard talking about sucking on baby dicks after they cut him. I just wanted to beat the fuck out of him. I really did. It's just like watching. I was like, you make me so angry with your stupid thinking that you're justifying cutting a baby's dick, and you're talking about some dumbass old ancient bullshit that was written by morons who thought the world was flat. And you want to continue that in 2016 because it's tradition. It's like, it makes me mad. It makes me really mad because you're talking about fucking babies. If you're a grown adult and you get sucked into some stupid cult that wants to cut your dick and let that old dude suck on it, like, all right, man. How old are you? You're 35? Good luck.
Right.
Don't do it. I'd say don't do it, but good luck. But when you do it to a baby, it just makes me fucking furious. And to see this guy just encloaking himself in tradition and using it to justify these like objectively barbaric practices. If you stand back and look at it, like you analyze it, like what benefit is there? What are the risks and what's the consequences and what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sucking on a baby's dick, dude? Are you talking about sucking baby dicks? What? How is that? How is it real? Like, how is that guy not in jail?
Yeah, how does that exist in this modern world?
Imagine, though, if he wasn't in a religion.
Right.
Imagine if he just liked cutting baby dicks and then sucking on them. You'd fucking have him killed.
Yeah.
But the fact that he can do that, he can...
And be regarded as an elder and a scholar.
Well, he's got crazy robes on
Yeah.
and shit. He's got like gilded gold around this stupid fucking outfit that he's wearing. And I'm like, oh my God, you fool.
Are you angry that you were circumcised, assuming you were?
No, because my dick looks perfect. It's amazing. No, I if I had a chance to do it over again, I would definitely say don't do that. But no, it doesn't make me angry. There's nothing I can do about it. But it's just a foolhardy practice. It's just it doesn't help anybody. Mm-hmm. It's not like imagine if there was like an improvement that you could make. Like everybody was born, unfortunately, with this flap of skin on their forehead. But if you remove that flap of skin, you can read people's minds. You know
oh
what I
my
mean?
God! Be first in line.
Yeah, take that flap of skin off.
Yeah.
Let's read each other's minds. This would be amazing. They found a hack. There's like a biohack, but that's not it. It doesn't. In fact, it lessens the pleasure.
Right.
It changes the way your penis feels. Allegedly, I wouldn't know, but that's what they say. There's a whole group of people that work to bring their foreskin back.
How do you do that?
There's apparently that you stretch the skin slowly over time until it regenerates a foreskin.
I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, it never regenerates a real foreskin because it's always going to be folded over in some sort of a strange way. But the reaction is that it reignites or whatever it is, the mucous membranes. So the tip of your penis, sorry to get graphic, folks, is supposed to have almost like a liquid mucusy sort of membrane over it. That's all dried out now when dudes get circumcised. So
Right.
it desensitizes your penis. And when your penis is encased in foreskin, then the foreskin's pulled back, it's much more sensitive and supposedly much more pleasurable. Who knows if that was a part of the reason why they started doing it in the first place, or if it was a hygiene issue at the time. People didn't know that much about washing. Who knows? Who knows what was the initial urge? I'm sure it's under debate. But
Did you see the headlines yesterday about how science they've developed this some substance
Second skin.
Yeah, second skin. Maybe they could
Yeah.
use it for that.
yeah, I guess. Yeah, but that seems like it would actually do the opposite. Well, maybe if you kept it on every day.
No, I guess you're right. I think
If you kept it on every day. What the thing about that second skin, though, that's interesting is that they think that they're going to be able to use it for medication. Like for people that have psoriasis or eczema, they can put medication on and then put that second skin on. And the second skin will actually hold the medication in place. Yes, that second skin thing's a trip.
yeah.
I was watching, they did it to this old lady's face, and it just sucked it back in, and her
What did it
bags
look
under her
like?
eyes. Like normal. 100%
Oh, really?
normal. It's invisible.
It's
really
like
weird.
Invisalign for your face, but better because you can kind of see Invisalign.
It's going to change the way people's faces look. But the people that did the Joan Rivers thing, that just filled their face up with rubber and stretched it all out, they're fucked. They're fucked. Like all the early adopters
Right.
of surgery and fillers and all that craziness that people have done to their lips. And there's this lady that I know, I don't call her monster face to her face, but There's a type of look that I call monster face.
Yeah, a lot of women have it.
Yeah. But that monster face thing, what happens is they stretch their face out so much that their mouth is way too big. Like their lips go way over here. They're not supposed to go over here.
No.
But they're doing this.
Oh, because they're just pulling it all back?
They're pulling their face back so much that when they smile, when they open their mouth, you start doing the Fibonacci sequence in your mind. And you go, something's wrong.
Right.
Because there's a natural, like, your nose is the correct size for your eyes and your lips and your chin and your face. And we all have, like, there's a symmetry to a human face. And there's a sequence that, the Fibonacci sequence, you can actually calculate.
I didn't know that Fibonacci had to do with facial features and stuff. I've heard of Fibonacci, but I didn't realize.
It has to do with a lot of different features that exist in nature, like pine cones, nautilus shells.
I've heard it used when, so I used to play in a band, and some of my friends had recording studios, and I know that it was used to like figure out acoustic nodes, I think, some pattern of sound waves.
Well, Tool did a whole song with the Fibonacci sequence, and they figured out a way to incorporate the sequence into the way the lyrics are structured and the way the beats are structured. But the ratio of a person's face gets distorted with plastic surgery. And it's one of the things that's upsetting about people. When you see someone, they've got like crazy fake lips, you're like, whoa, what's going on with your lips? Or what happened to her nose? What is going on with her eyes? When we change things, what is this, Jamie?
Fibonacci.
Sequence in nature.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so it's showing the sequence as applied to the human face. But it's applied to everything, apparently. But I think when you see it, that's pretty cool. You see it in sunflowers. When you see it in human faces after surgery, I think that's one of the reasons why there's like an automatic like repelling response. Like it pulls you back. It's
unnatural.
Like, whoa.
What I wonder is, because I feel like I'm really good at spotting plastic surgery, but I wonder how many people walk by and I don't, like people who have good plastic surgery where you just don't notice it and you just think they're attractive. Like that must exist.
There's definitely some subtle plastic surgery that they've done really well.
Yeah.
Like there's some subtle facelifts and some things along those lines that, another person I know this lady, she's like 60 and she looks hot. She's pretty hot. And she's had a gang of shit done. Maybe too much. Like she maybe like obsesses a little bit and nips and tucks, but you look at her, you're like, God damn, she's 60. Like she looks really good.
Right.
But they do a little of this, a little of this, but then I know a monster face, and she's got a mouth that looks like it could eat a baby's head. Like she just looks like a monster. Like her cheeks are huge.
Is she happy with how she looks? Do you think?
Who the fuck knows? I don't know her that well, but her cheeks are like this. They're all stuffed up with rubber. They do weird stuff where it looks like they just had mouth surgery.
Yeah.
Their jaws are swollen because they feel like
there's so much
puffing out their face removes some of the wrinkles.
I see. What's funny, in a town that prizes being skinny so much, I see so many people, men too, have these like balloony faces because it's just filled with, I don't know if it's Botox or Juvederm. I don't know. I have not had any of that done, so I don't really know. But it's like, yeah, their faces. It looks like they're puffing them out.
Yeah. It looks
they're
like
they're filled with irritant, is what it is.
Yeah. Well, there's an actual physical substance in there that's making their face thicker to get rid of the lines. Yeah, all that stuff is going to go away. They're on the verge of releasing. There's a guy in Germany that created this procedure called Regenikine. And Regenikine is they take your blood, they spin it in a centrifuge, and they heat it up. And then they take there's like a yellow serum that gets developed in your blood, and it's a direct response to the heat. Your body reacts as if it's in a flu, and it produces these radical anti-inflammatories. They take these anti-inflammatories and they inject it into injured areas. And all these athletes like Kobe Bryant and Peyton Manning.
That's so crazy. I just read about this.
Yeah.
The wonderful athlete Kim Kardashian did it. They call it a plasma facial.
Okay, that's different.
But it's still the blood in the centrifuge.
Yeah, but
and
it's
then,
not heated up. That's
bullshit?
No. It's a type of plasma. What's it called? I forget what they call it, but it's similar. It's similar. I forget the procedure's name. Something plasma. Fucking god damn it! Why do I not remember this? Anyway, it's similar. but not the same. This Regenikine thing involves heat, and it involves your blood's response to the heat and then taking that serum and injecting it back. My point being, the same doctor that created this procedure created a new procedure that restarts the body's production of collagen. So what wrinkles are is your body loses its elasticity and it starts to give in and starts to like get like sloppy and loose, and that's why people get facelifts. Well, with his new procedure, he's going to restart your body's production of collagen. You're going to develop collagen like a 20-year-old.
Wow.
Which is fucking freaky, because that's all it
really
is. It's not something like you're asking people to, you know, be able to jump 10 feet higher. Like, it's not insurmountable. It's just a simple matter of the body not producing as much as something that it used to produce. So they figured out a way to get it to do so instead of pulling your face back and stuffing it with rubber and all that stuff.
Now, are there health benefits to that, or is that just vanity? Because, like, you know, earlier we were talking about is being in the gym all the time about vanity. I would say if you're 80 and you need to look 20, that's vanity. I mean, ask me when I'm 80, but it's like, why does everyone need to look so young?
Well, you look better when you're 20. So if you want to look better, do it. It's really simple. Is it vanity? Well, is it vanity when you cut your hair? Is it vanity when you wear nice clothes? Is it vanity when you wash your face? Is it vanity when you wear makeup?
I especially used to think about that all the time because I really wanted a nose job. For the longest time, I never got one. Sometimes I still look in the mirror.
Thank you.
Sometimes
you don't need to do that. You have a beautiful nose.
Thank you.
That's a mind fuck.
Wait, what is a mind fuck?
Like, what's wrong with my nose?
Yes.
Get my nose fixed.
Yeah, and my fear is always like, well, what if I end up with some stupid tiny nose that doesn't look right on my face, and then I can't get it back? And plus, I feel like that's just going too far. But then I think, you know, I had braces, so my teeth look different than they would have looked otherwise. And I straightened my hair, and I look better with straight hair. I look better with straight teeth. I've all these little things. So why is that one different? And it just is because it involves, you know, undergoing a procedure, and I sort of don't.
Well, here's the thing.
I don't agree with doing it, but still.
What
it's
if
like, where do you draw the line?
If you were born with a weird hump on your nose and they straighten that out and all of a sudden you're beautiful.
Yeah.
That can happen. I mean, there's people that were born with distortions.
Why is that okay, but just a nip tuck we've decided is not?
Well, it's not that it's not okay. I mean, you can do whatever the fuck you want, but it's a rabbit hole.
Yes.
And if you go down that I want to get a nose job rabbit hole, you might go, I think my eyebrows would be better if they were an inch wider.
Oh, are you saying they would be?
No. But, you know, you'd be like,
I know. Well, that's the argument against it.
There's got to be a way to make my lips just a little thicker. Just
well, I've thought
of
that,
I'm not looking for this,
right.
But I want this.
A tiny bit.
Just a little.
That's what stops me from starting any of that, is that I don't want to be monster-faced.
Yeah, you
because
can get
it's so easy to go like, oh, yeah, you know, my upper lip is not as full as my lower lip. Maybe I could change that. Or like, I feel like I'm beginning to get lines here. Maybe I could do something. You know, it's like there's all those
injections in there, some filler in
there.
Just fucking. If I'm a little fatter around the outside of my lips, but I don't have the wrinkles,
right.
I'll be happy.
Or like, hey, maybe some of this fat can be moved here. Next thing you know, there's an alien up your butt.
Yeah, well, how about people take some of the fat out of their inner thigh and they inject it in their ass, and all of a sudden it looks like they're wearing a diaper. I know a lady who had that done.
Really?
How about that?
Who are you hanging out with?
A diaper. I'll live out where all these white people live. All these older white people with money.
Yeah.
They just panic and start sticking stuff in their body. But she looks like she's wearing a diaper. She's got these little popsicle legs. Like she doesn't.
Was she unhappy with her flat butt before?
I don't know her. I don't know her that well.
Okay.
I just know that she had some stuff injected in her ass. She's not the only one I know who's done it either. I know quite a few people who've done it. It's a bizarre practice.
Are you familiar with waist training? I only learned about this recently. That's another crazy thing. But I was at the grocery store and I saw this woman with this gigantic ass. Gigantic thighs, like big. Tiny, tiny, tiny little waist.
Yeah, keep talking.
I was so turned on.
Yeah, keep talking.
No, it was very unnatural looking.
A friend of mine got with this girl once, and they hooked up, and they got together, and they started fooling around, and she had a thick waist, and it freaked him out. He said that she was boxy. He said she went from her shoulders down to her hips, and it was a straight line. And I was like, what, it freaked you out? Like how? He goes, I had to leave. I go, what?
I had to leave?
I go, so the geometry of her body, like the fact that it didn't go, I go, she's pretty? And he goes, I never met the girl. I go, she's pretty. He goes, yeah, she's beautiful. I go, hold on. She's beautiful, but her body was too square. But did you notice that before you got together? He goes, I didn't think it would be a big deal, but when
you had noticed it.
We got together, it was a big deal. And I'm like, whoa.
Well,
yeah.
At least he's trying to look at the things that really matter. What kind of women does your friend normally? I'm sorry, I'm being so fucking judgmental.
You get angry. You're
I
angry.
really
All
am.
of a sudden,
yeah.
Instead of like it just being like a nose job or braces or nip and tuck, it's all this one thing, like the boxy body. You're like, this fucking piece of shit. Like,
well, you know why? Because I walk around with there's 19 things about me I'm not into, but I'm like, oh, whatever. People won't notice. And then I never even thought of the level of boxiness of a body being something. I mean, I'm married, so I'm not out there trying to impress people with my body not being boxy. I can be boxy. I've got that freedom. But I'm just saying, I didn't know I needed to worry about that.
Well, you don't need to worry about it unless you're hanging out with my retarded friend. But if you were...
Well, is he retarded?
Oh, yeah. He's definitely retarded.
Comes to that kind of stuff?
He's retarded when it comes to everything.
Oh, okay.
But I was just amazed that he left this girl's place because she had a boxy body.
Would he have had sex with her otherwise?
Yes.
He would have stuck it in the box's box?
The box's box, yes.
I feel like that joke could have come off better. I'm not happy with the execution. Invite me back someday, and I'm really going to have that one perfected.
Well, that's our first go at it.
I'll have a different face by then, but that joke will be so good.
I'll have to pretend to ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I was in the Irvine Improv. No, Brea Improv. We were in the green room, and we were waiting to go on, and we were just barbecued high, like really, really stoned, and was watching TV, and it was Comedy Central was on. It was Comedy Central, one of those shows where before she died, the fuck's her name?
Joan Rivers?
Joan Rivers had full-on rubber face. And she was on the screen, and when you're really high, things like that they just glaringly stand out. And I just held my hand up to my face like the Home Alone kid. I was like, oh no. Oh no, like what is going on here? Like how are we just like letting this go on? How come someone doesn't step in and go, what the fuck are you doing? You can't do this. This is crazy. Her whole head was just rubber and inflated.
Yeah.
And nothing was moving. The forehead wasn't moving. The cheeks weren't moving. I'm like, whoa, this is a total new kind of face that never existed before.
Mm-hmm. That we see on TV all the time. That always shocks me or frightens me, that idea that what if I couldn't have any expressions?
Yeah.
Like, what if...
Couldn't do this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's normal. You can't do that. You can't...
But that's so important, I think. That's so important for, if you're going to be on camera, having a face that displays emotion is important. So why would you want to hobble yourself to that degree?
That's really interesting you brought this up, because I was watching boxing this weekend, and Canelo Alvarez fought Amir Khan, and they're doing this thing now in boxing. It's really weird, where when the post-fight ring announcer is interviewing the fighters, it was Max Kellerman who's interviewing the fighters. He's asking these questions. They have these girls stand right there. These really pretty girls, stand like as if they're his friends. And they stand right next to him. And it's so fucking distracting. And this one girl, I don't know if she has Botox or if her face is just naturally shiny, because she looks like really young. Like, I don't think she has Botox. Mm-hmm. But she's just sitting there with like a smile, like half expressionless. And she probably can move her face. It's probably all like in my head. But all I'm thinking of is her fucking head's frozen. She
could have had
29 years old. And her face isn't moving.
Young people do Botox now.
What? How old?
I know. Vanderpump Rules. I'm sorry to bring it up again.
But why would they do that? Why would they do that if their face is not wrinkled?
Apparently, it is. According to one of the guys, it's a preventative.
Here is they're getting interviewed. See the girl behind him?
Yes.
She's very pretty, beautiful girl. Her fucking forehead hasn't moved in months. That goddamn thing is frozen.
Her face looks plastic.
Does it?
To me.
This is pretty hot. See, that's a certain amount of plastic I'll tolerate. But it was freaking me out. I was like, why is her skin frozen?
Right.
Is that just, see her in the back? It's hard to tell. But it was like, there's like a shininess to foreheads when they do that shit. Like there's like an artificial shininess to it. It's like it's not even that it's pulled back, but you've zapped it.
Yeah.
They zapped it and froze it.
Right.
It's like,
all the little tiny micro-muscular things aren't happening.
and it's
Paralyzed.
botulism.
I know.
You're injecting botulism into your fucking face to keep it from moving. You're paralyzing your face.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lady who did it and it went bad. She got a cheap one done and her eye drooped down like this.
No. Did it
So
ever
for
come
like
back?
6 weeks. Yeah, 6 weeks later. For 6 weeks, she looked like fucking Arturo Gotti. She was like, it was like somebody had been baiting on her with jabs.
Yeah, I know of someone whose side of her mouth, and she was a newscaster. Side of her mouth drooped for weeks too, but it came back.
What did she do? She's a newscaster.
Shit. I don't know if she went on. I heard about it from other people. She was freaking out. She was freaking out about it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Fucking what a weird problem to have. I injected too much botulism in the side of my face, and now I drool when I eat.
That's what honestly scares me about all that stuff, is the idea of something going wrong. Because I just don't trust anyone enough to let them do that.
Well, also when they inject the botulism, there's like a lot of different levels of people that are good at it and shitty at it, and some people there's people that think more is better.
Right.
So stick more of that stuff in there, and just freeze the whole fucking thing. People do it to their arms. Did you know that? They do it to different parts of their body. Yeah.
I recently heard, though, about how it can be a migraine cure. And
That
it's
makes
like
sense.
39 tiny injections in different places in your head. And it helps with migraines.
That kind of makes sense. If migraines are pressure, and pressure is caused by tension,
Right.
you release those tension.
So what do people do when they put it in their arms, or why?
People don't like the way their elbows look and shit. Oh, that's different, Jamie. That's yeah, that's oil. See with that guy, those are not real muscles. That's something
but
called.
It looks so real.
We're looking at a video or an image of a guy who's on something called synthol. And synthol is something that people who are into bodybuilding do, where they inject it into their muscles, and it's oil that inflates the size of the muscle. It doesn't change the strength of the muscle, but it makes your muscles like blow up and look complete. Look at that guy with the red T-shirt on. Look at these guys. Like, look at this. They inject their muscles and make them fucking enormous, and not just a little bigger, way bigger than normal.
No, it's
really
it's
madness.
Gross looking.
Well, it doesn't look real at all.
No.
It's crazy, but it's a form of body dysmorphia where these guys think it looks good. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like when a girl gets size 78 double E tits, they get crazy. They start thinking that that's the way to go. And it never looks big enough for them, and they just want to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like anorexics, bodybuilders. This body dysmorphia is a real thing. It's like what you were saying, like looking at your own nose. You're like, just change this and do something with it, and just you stare at it long enough, you start finding things you don't like about it.
Right.
And you just go through the looking glass, and everything gets distorted.
I kind of think it really seems that almost all women have a certain amount of body dysmorphia. I know I certainly do, especially having been pretty overweight, and then now whatever I am, and then it's like I don't know how to regard myself in the mirror. And by the way, I don't need anyone to tell me how to regard myself unless it's positive.
Well, yeah, you're
I feel like I'm inviting
comments.
it. Yeah. Well, I just realized I was sort of inviting some stuff, and I thank you, but no, thank you. But yeah, I just most women in this culture don't really have a sense of what they look like.
Well, I think there's also an issue with improvement in general, whereas I think that also can be applied to people that just get way too rich and way too successful. It can be applied to looking at your own body, looking at your mind, looking at your face in particular. Like you can improve the way you look, right? You can wear makeup, you can change your hairstyle, and when you can do something, you're always never sure when you're done.
Yeah.
So like if you're making a painting, how hard is it to make a painting and walk away? Like, okay, that's good. No, I'm just going to a little more. I'm going to, and the process of improvement, you can get caught up in it where you lose your objectivity and you can't see it the way other people can see it. And I think that is a big part of what body dysmorphia is.
Yeah.
You just
perfectionism.
Yeah, we have this desire to improve things, right? You have this desire. I think I'm going to, renovate my house. The next thing you know, you're going fucking crazy and tearing walls down and rewiring things and like what is that? Well, what is it?
Right?
Yeah, it's like this thing where you can't just appreciate. You have to like constantly change things, and if that's applied to your face, or your waist with the waist training that you're about to get into, that where they wear those corsets and suck themselves in and compress their organs and also hinder organ function. It can fuck with the way because everything's not supposed to be fucking jammed in like that.
Yeah.
You can change the shape of your organs. It's just soft tissue. If you wear a corset enough. I saw a guy with a corset the other day.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
Well, I'm assuming he was a guy because he had a beard. But in this day and age, you're not allowed to assume that anymore. He was at Universal City Walk, or the park, the fucking the rides. And he had a pink corset on and Birkenstocks. It was a dude.
Such mixed messages, because the Birkenstocks are like, I'm going to just be comfortable. The corset's like, no, no, I'm not.
I think his message was, this is how he likes to dress. But it was a pink corset and it was stuffed into this thing, and then he had wacky hair and a beard and like kind of women-y clothes, kind of like women. Some parts of the clothing he was wearing were women's.
Like the corset.
Yeah, that the shirt as well was like a woman's shirt. It was very odd.
Just sounds like an uncomfortable ensemble.
I don't know what kind of childhood he had, but maybe he's just gonna fight that to the day he dies. I don't know. Or maybe that I don't understand what some people like. I don't like some things that other people like. I don't know what's going on in their head when they look at something and they go, that looks amazing. But some people, that is what they like.
Yeah.
For him, maybe it's that. Like people that like to dress up like furries, right? Like what is it
right
about putting on a fucking giant mascot outfit of a squirrel that really gets your rocks off? I don't know. I don't get it, but I don't think I have to.
No, you don't have to. No, I don't. In terms of things like fetishes, I don't know that someone can understand the mindset of someone who's into that. Right. I feel like that is so baked into your like operating software, to use that term again, that it's like, I don't know that that's, if I were to explain it, someone else would get it. I don't think that's like that. I think that's more like, I like the smell of vanilla or I don't like the smell.
Right.
Or it turns my stomach.
Well, it's weird when you find out that some fetishes are just sort of burned into your mind at a very young age when you're sexually maturing. Like Dr. Chris Ryan, who's a friend of mine, has been on the podcast before. He was talking to me about children, especially boys, when they're in a certain level of puberty, like I think it's like ages between 11 and 14, any sort of sexual encounters that they have during those age can almost permanently burn those encounters into their category of sexual attractive things, things that they find sexually attractive, including like sex with men. And he was talking about how men can be totally straight, but maybe they got blown by some guy when they were 14, like in some crazy weird moment. And then they become attracted to men blowing them for like forever. It becomes like a weird fetish. Yeah, well, yeah, it's imprinted. I forget the term he used.
But is he suggesting that therefore then they're gay, or they're not gay, they just are into dudes blowing them?
Exactly. That's what he's suggesting. I mean, I'm sure there's both. But I think what he's saying is that some men can be even attracted to gay porn or attracted to the idea of guys blowing guys and not be gay, which is, we don't like to. We like to make things very clean the way we categorize things. Yeah. We like to have like very clean and obvious categories.
Right, but if we're all on a spectrum, then the categories break down for different people. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what term he used about this imprinting.
But sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
I think that younger people are much more comfortable with the fluidity of sexuality and with everything. I mean, I remember when I was in college, there was a fair amount of girls making out with girls, but in front of guys. Like, look at me, I'm so wild, I'm making out with a girl, but not, and I feel like that's now, you know what, I actually don't know. I was going to say, I feel like that happens all the time now, but I sound like a blue hair or something. I don't actually know. I think
people are experimenting with the idea of doing things that are outside of the confines of normal patterns. And because they don't like who their parents are and they don't want to be like them, so they want to be able to rebel. One of the best ways to rebel is to exhibit behaviors or indulge in behaviors that are forbidden or they're outside of patterns.
Right.
There was this girl at the Comedy Store, one of the waitresses was telling me about her friend who she said it was like hilarious the way he said it, because he said, I know I'm not gay because I've had sex with guys and I didn't like it. And she said, I think that's like one of the most heterosexual things that a guy could say. And we were laughing. I go, yeah, I guess so, right? I'm like, you don't really know if you like sucking a dick until you suck a dick.
Right.
And that's what he was saying. He's like, I didn't know. He goes, I had sex with a guy. I blew him. I didn't like it at all. And I'm never doing it again. And she was talking about
his
yeah
commitment to finding out, to not prejudging.
Well, I think that people did that in the 70s in particular. There was a bunch of rock stars that experimented with gay sex, like Pete Townsend did it, and Mick Jagger and David Bowie supposedly did it. Like, I think it was common that people were experimenting with boundaries, and they were challenging where those boundaries are, where they begin and where they end. And we also know that, like, homosexuality in particular was very, very common a long time ago. You know, even pedestry, you know, that's a word, right? Pedestry, isn't it?
Fucking kids?
Yeah, fucking kids. Yeah, being a pederast.
Yeah.
That was super common.
Pederasty?
Yeah.
Is that the word maybe?
One of those.
Somewhere in we're so
Pedophile.
close to the the word.
Pedophiles. There's a difference between being a pederast and a pedophile. One of them is like they get attracted to it. One of them is they engage in it.
Interesting.
But that was super common, like really common amongst like really respected people, you know, like Socrates, Plato. There's a lot of people that they acknowledged that they had young boyfriends, like little tiny young people. It's fucked. But back then it wasn't fucked. And homosexuality the Greeks and the Romans, and they constantly engaged in homosexual behavior.
Right.
That's weird about like depictions of them in modern media. They don't indulge in that. Like, that's like not a part of like the movie 300. You know what I mean?
Right.
And a bunch of dudes butt fucking each other. But if we're led
You're
to,
right.
yeah.
Why is there not someone on set who's like more butt fucking?
Yeah, we've gone over the texts. It seems like we're not showing an ample amount of butt fucking amongst dudes.
What's interesting is that it could have been so accepted, and then there could have been such a change where up until recently it's like people who were truly gay did not feel comfortable being gay. You know, that it could change that much.
I wonder if it's cultural. You know, I don't know.
Religion.
It could be religion, but it's also it could very well be what did you grow up with. Like, I think a lot of what people are is what did you grow up with.
Yeah.
If you look at the variations, you know, you talk about the spectrum of cultural behaviors that exist in human beings. It's wide and varied, and in some places extremely bizarre. And so you look at like isolated tribes in particular, and you look at some of their strange practices. Like, there's this group in New Guinea, and they call them the Seaman Warriors of New Guinea. And one of the things they do is they take young boys away from their mothers very early on. They live in these bachelor groups, and it's all just child rape. Yeah, I mean, and they think that the only way a young boy can grow up and develop is if he ingests semen. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And this has been going on for thousands of years, apparently, this isolated tribe that does this. And these are like fierce warriors who fucking kill their enemies and eat them and shit. A lot of cannibalism exists in some isolated tribes, especially like around New Guinea for some strange reason. But
what I would think would be fascinating would be talking to the person who escaped that. Assuming there are, I mean, they must. The tribes must shed members occasionally, and then where do they go and what do they do?
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's a cult behavior. Like, I have a friend who used to be in the Moonies. I know a dude who grew up a Moonie. I know a dude who grew up a Christian Scientist, a Jehovah's Witness. I know a couple Jehovah's Witnesses.
Me too. Former Jehovah's Witnesses.
Ooh, that's weird, man.
Yeah.
That's a weird one.
Yeah, and my friends who are Jehovah's Witnesses, who are no longer practicing, but their families still are.
Oh, geez.
And that creates all sorts of problems. Like my friend, who her mom didn't come to her wedding because I forget because something about her wedding wasn't Jehovah's Witness approved. So her mom couldn't go.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah.
How specific, Mom?
Yeah. All right, I have a Joe Rogan question. I have noticed that you post a lot of images that show the brutality of nature.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what about that aspect of nature appeals to you?
Well, it's not even just the brutality of nature, just nature in general. Like those photos that I have over there that, what's such a dude's name? CJM Photography, CJM_photography sent us. Those are these wolves in Yellowstone. I just am fascinated by wildlife. Like, see those wolves? And they're incredible. They're amazing, right?
Yeah.
There's the actual photo itself. I'm just really, really fascinated by wildlife. And for whatever reason, wild predators fascinate me more because they're scary. And just because the way they live is so explosive and dynamic and final, you know? Like when the image of the bear that I posted the other day that was eating the sheep and pulling the
the
fetus.
fetal sheep that it had pulled from a carcass.
Yeah, it killed the sheep and then was pulling the fetus out of its body. It's like, that is just so ruthless and brutal. There's something about that aspect of nature that's just insanely. When I say attractive, I don't mean I love it. Like I'm like, yeah, eat it up. I'm excited by it.
You're drawn to it.
I mean, I'm drawn to it and compelled to view it and fascinated by the fact that these animals exist with us on this planet alongside us right now in the wild. And it's one of the more amazing aspects about North America is that North America has these wildlife preserves, these places like Yellowstone, these state national parks, where they have these animals that are wandering around. And any given time, you can go to Yellowstone and you could see bison and wolves and bear. And they don't, I mean, whether you're there or whether you're not there, that is how they live. They live in the same way they've lived for millions of years in this really barbaric, raw, natural world where it's just about breeding and killing and trying to keep the numbers as high as possible while, riding it out until the alpha male gets too old to defend its territory and then gets forced out and eventually dies and freezes to death. I mean, and it's this intense, long-running cycle. I'm just really, really fascinated by wildlife in general.
Do you think that... Because I wondered if there's an element of it that you feel like people don't face that's our true nature to a degree and like what we come from. Because I can post nature images and it can be like, look at these puppies. Look at a puppy befriending a duckling. That's what I post.
Those aren't really nature though.
Well, natural images.
Yeah.
I'm saying like, there's people often don't focus on the stuff that you're presenting. It's like, it's there, but it's like, I don't want to think about that. It's icky. It makes me uncomfortable. Do you delight? Is there a part of you that wishes people would recognize that is a reality more?
No. I mean, yes, for sure. But that's not why I'm putting it up. I'm putting it up just because it's compelling to me.
Right.
And when I see things that are cool, I'm just like, look at this fucking wolf. This is wild. Like, look at that. And I feel compelled to put it up. But I think our life, the way we live in cities and in urban areas is insanely filtered in terms of like our interactions with the rest of the world, especially when we're consuming things that come from the outside. And then it not just as far as animals, but even plant life, even just gardens and nature. I think we buy too much vegetables from the store. We buy too many vegetables from a box, from a shelf, and we stick it in a plastic bag and we drive it away. I think we would all do ourselves a lot of good if we grew some. If we kind of understood this process. Like,
right.
I grow vegetables and I put them in a salad and I chop them up and cook them and eat them. And there's something incredibly satisfying about being there for the entire process, knowing that this is a seed I put in the dirt, I put the fertilizer, I put the water, and here it is in a salad. And there's a connection to your food and to just the life form that you're consuming itself in that way that I don't think you get any other way. And I think that the filter that we've created by civilization, by supermarkets, by restaurants and things like that, I think it's unhealthy because I think it keeps us from a true, complete understanding of our position in this whole thing.
Right.
That bear, the only difference between that bear and the space that you're in right now is just distance. Like that bear could be right over there. I mean, it's wandering around on the earth. It doesn't have fences around it. It's just distance that keeps it from being in Woodland Hills, walking down the street. That's really all that stops it.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's got its own environment. It's got its own range. And so it stays in that range and it eats the animals that are in that range. But not even just terrifying, just the idea that that is a life form that coexists with us. And our life form, we have figured out a way to isolate it in these very strange tribal systems and these communities and civilizations and cities. Yeah, it's very bizarre. And so that's the most appealing thing about wildlife and wild predators, especially predators, because that's what we're afraid of the most. We're afraid of being consumed by one of these things that just consumes. They're consuming machines. They're just walking through the woods looking for something to consume. And that's what they do. They try to fuck and they try to kill things to eat them. It's just so bizarre that that's all going on right now, constantly, all the time. But most of our interactions with animals are puppies, dogs, our cat. Hey, sweetie, here's a can of food. Open the can. Don't even think about ground up fucking chickens that got stuffed into that can. We're weird. And I think
we're disconnected.
100%. Yeah. But I'm engrossed in it. I'm just constantly watching nature documentaries and paying attention to articles about it, and I'm fascinated by it.
Are you interested in desensitizing yourself to horrific images? Like, I've had people on my podcast before. It's usually people who came up in tech, who went through a phase where they felt the need to watch beheading videos, and like anything anyone would send them, they felt the need to watch it so that they could handle it.
There's a thought process that I could understand. I get why somebody, if something really bothers them, they would want to see it a lot. And then if that does happen and you see things enough, you can get desensitized. I think it's a really negative feeling to watch like a reporter get his head cut off by the Taliban or something like that. It's a really negative feeling that I don't want. Yeah, I remember I watched this ISIS video, one of the last ones that I watched, of these guys shooting these guys. They had them face down. They shot them all. And, you know, they're just, you see their bodies reacting to the bullets, and then they climb over this guy and they cut his head off. And I'm watching them dig into this guy's neck with this knife and pull his head up and yell, "Oh, Allah Akbar," and hold it up. And I remember thinking, as I'm watching that, like, okay, I get it. I'm not watching these anymore. I get it. I know those guys exist. I've got it in my database. It's there. I don't need to be feeling like shit all day for the rest of the day, thinking, like, how the fuck does everything go so bad that someone's making a YouTube video gunning people down, then cutting their head off with a pocket knife? Like, it's just, what? I mean, you know that guy lived to be 30 whatever years old before he's shooting this guy and cutting his head off. Like, what is his experiences in his life that led him to be at the point where he wants to project this horrific image to the rest of the world, to put fear and terror into the eyes of the beholders? Like, what is it that he's trying to do? Like, what has gone wrong?
Right, what's he trying to say? And
again, it's what you were saying about the spectrum. Like, this, in the spectrum, there's of horrific behaviors versus beautiful behaviors. There's this broad, and I think there's something to be said for knowing the darkness, just so that you can understand, like, this is also in the mix. This is also in the equation. Don't look for it everywhere, because it'll fucking freak you out.
Yeah.
But knowing that it's there, it's probably
don't
better.
Pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think if you pretend it doesn't exist, that means that you pretend it doesn't exist in yourself.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're getting drunk and being an asshole.
Yeah, a friend of mine sent me an article about this girl who went over to Syria to try to love her way through the country, and she was raped and killed really quickly. And when he sent it to me, I remember like reading this article and thinking, like, why would someone be so naive that they think they could just go and hug all these people and wander through this land? And then she was gang raped and killed by these Muslim guys. And there's a lot of people that don't want to believe that some people had a really shitty upbringing. They had a shitty deal. They were born in a terrible part of the world. They were exposed to horrific things very early on, and their programming is ugly.
Yeah.
It's dark and ugly and filled with trauma and pain and suffering and violence. And that is who they are. But that is a reality. That's why the people that are total 100% anti-military, good luck with all that. Good luck with it. Because what you're saying is you hope for the compassion of all these people in the world that it matches up with yours. Well, guess what? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Because there are parts in the world where these people are 30 years old, and for 30 years they have been exposed to horrific violence, and that is what they do. And unless they die, this is just how they behave, and you are going to run into them, and most likely they're going to enact horrific violence on people you know or on you.
Right.
There's a lot of people like that. That exists.
I used to be a total pacifist growing up, so when I was young. And, now I recognize that that's unfortunately a beautiful but naive way to go through the world, because it's not realistic to have no military and to think that you never need it, because you do. You need to be able to show strength, and you need to be able to be protected, and you need to crush bullshit when it happens in different places. And I hate that, though.
Yeah.
I don't love having to have come to that conclusion. Like I prefer the idea that you can just hug people and make a difference. But
it'd be beautiful, and it works in small groups. It works in some places, but look at North Korea. You've got a dictatorship. You got some evil fuck who's running an entire country, and he keeps people entirely under his thumb. I mean, literally an entire country under this guy's thumb.
Yeah.
Think about what's going on right now in the Congo. Think about what's going on right now all throughout the darker aspects of the world, where people are poor and there's violence everywhere. There's a lot of places in the world today that are the apocalypse. They're there. Like there's a crazy Vice piece on Liberia. I don't know if you ever go to Vice. Do you ever read
Sometimes.
Vice.com?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, they have this video on Liberia, and this guy, they call him General Butt Naked, because he would go into fights naked. And he was part of this civil war that was going on in Liberia, but he was a cannibal. He killed babies from these neighboring tribes. He would go over and kill the children and eat their heart, and they thought that like eating the piece of a child's heart would protect you in battle. Mm-hmm. They would cover themselves with the blood of these innocent children and run through these fucking neighborhoods. It's just horrific stuff. And that's going on right now. Like Liberia right now is a terrifying place. And if it happened in Los Angeles, you would say, holy shit, the apocalypse is here. The apocalypse is here on Earth. It's just not in Woodland Hills. It's not in Studio City. It's not in Beverly Hills, but it's here. It's on Earth.
Yeah, sometimes I'll like that. The awareness of how much fucked up shit is happening all over the place is when I am tuned into that frequency. Like I feel very overwhelmed and just like, fuck, I don't know what to do with that. Not that I have to do anything, but I mean, I don't know what to do with that because. Right. Like on my show's twice a week. And on the Thursday show, I've started featuring, I have a friend of mine who's a dog trainer, and she goes to specifically the Downey shelter, but other shelters, kill shelters, and takes these dogs and trains them and gets them more adoptable. And so I've been featuring a dog a week, hoping to try to get the word out. But now that I'm aware of all these different dogs, I'm also aware when all of a sudden you go to the website and it says, so-and-so is no longer available. And I know what that means now. I mean, it means that dog has been put down, as opposed to so-and-so may not be available, or so-and-so has been adopted, or so-and-so is with a rescue. It's like, I think when it says is no longer available, and I used to just think, oh, someone adopted that dog. It's like, no, that dog got put down. And so now that I'm aware of all this, I find I get emotionally attached to each dog that I don't personally know, and I'm overwhelmed with the sadness of that. And then I think like, this is nothing compared to the horrendous awfulness on every level. It's hard that thing of like, I want to make the tiniest difference in one little life. It's easy for me to just feel overwhelmed to try to even be doing anything because there's always something so much worse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. There is always something so much worse. But I think in some weird way that also makes us appreciate when things are good.
Yeah.
And that's one of the more unique aspects of today is that you can pay attention to some of the horrific parts of the world and go, wow, we are so fucking lucky that we're not trapped in North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
We're so lucky that we're not living in the Congo. We're so lucky that, my friend Justin, he builds wells in the Congo, and he goes to the Congo and he's there for like 6 months at a time. Just got malaria for the second time, and he's just a gem of a human being, and he is part of this this charity called Fight for the Forgotten, where he goes and helps these pygmies build water wells and maintains them for them and stuff like that. But this guy's experience when he talks about the horrific plight of these people and all they've gone through and all the persecution they've experienced, it really, you leave and you want to be nicer to people. You listen to him talk and you listen to his experiences, and you have hope because a guy is willing to leave Dallas, Texas and fly down to the Congo and become a part of these people's lives and try to help them and elevate them. So there's all this hope for humanity in that. This person that has no real connection with these folks other than just meeting them once and then falling in love with their tribe. That is possible, but it makes you realize, like, God, we're looking for problems today. We're looking for things to be. I'm like, oh, should I fix my nose? What should I do? You know what I mean? But things could be so much worse. And again, it comes back to that spectrum and the spectrum of information that we can access today. It's almost, the brain is really not it's not really available to tune in to all these different parts of the world all the time. Mm-mm. And so it's so easy to lose focus. It's so easy to lose perspective.
It really is. I just, I went to France a week ago.
Did you go to Paris?
I did.
Were you scared?
No. We originally were going to go in December, and we rescheduled, even though I know that the chances of anything actually happening are so small. And it's almost that thing of like, I'm not that special that something's going to happen to me, you know? But I think there just is that. After the attack, we started thinking maybe this is, why were we going in the winter anyway? Everyone says that's not the best time to go, so let's just postpone it. Because we had always been debating, should we go in December or April? But then after, I wasn't scared once we made the decision to go, but I wondered, are we making the wrong decision? But once I was there, I was absolutely. I also moved to New York, like shortly after 9/11, and once I was there, I was not scared. Feel like for me, the fear is more in contemplating going there. But anyway, being there, being in another country where my daily thoughts aren't like, oh, I've got to check Twitter all the time and I've got to do this, like whatever the bullshit of my daily life is. Having that instead be replaced with, I'm just trying to remember how to say this word and trying to communicate with people and hoping they can understand me, and looking at all this beautiful art and everything that you do. It really, upon coming back, I'm finding readjusting into my daily routine is more difficult, and I don't want to. I don't want to go back to caring so much about minute bullshit. I feel like that's kind of the gift of travel, not local travel, or not small trips, but the gift of going to another country or being around people who speak a different language, is that it kind of, it like takes your brain and treats it like a snow globe. And then everything kind of gets readjusted. And you remember that there's so much more than whatever it is you've been waking up and thinking about.
Yeah. Also that their world is so vastly different. The language is different. The sounds they make are different. Their traditions are different. Mm-hmm. Their customs are different. The food they eat is different. The neighborhoods they walk down and live in are different.
Right.
Their established patterns are just different. And then when you experience those different patterns in different cultures and different cities, I think it makes you just go, oh yeah, it's a big fucking world. Mm-hmm.
Right. It's because it's so easy to think that it's all exactly that your life is very similar to the life that everyone else is living. And then you go out there and it's like I was thinking, and by the way, it's not like I was in the rainforest or something. Like I recognize I was in a place that all things considered, is actually pretty similar to where we are. But we went out to Giverny one day and sort of drove through the countryside. And
what's that? Was Giverny?
That's where Monet lived and what he painted. It's his house, and there's the gardens that he painted.
Oh, wow. You can go visit his house?
Mm-hmm. It's really cool. But I was thinking, what if you just lived out here? Like, what is that life like?
Yeah.
To you're an hour, you're in the countryside. Like, what do they do? What goes on?
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, it feels like very little goes on, but that's probably not true.
Well, I think it's similar to the drive up to San Francisco. You ever drive up to San Francisco, you take the 5 and you stop at one of those like farm towns, and you're like, what in the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, and I want to go to a restaurant, talk to some kid who's like washing dishes, and go, hey man, you
What's
grow
it
up
like?
here?
Yeah.
What the fuck did you do? What do you guys do? How much meth do you guys have? Like, what's going on? Yeah, that's where people get like super desperado in drugs too, because they're just looking for some kind of crazy escape. You'll just drive into some town of 3,000 people in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
What is this? And there's a lot of right-wing shit up there too. That was one of the weirdest things. I always think of California as being like pretty left-wing, pretty open-minded, pretty liberal.
I grew up in Orange County, so I did not have that sense of it.
When you drive up like through the farm areas, like you'll see like these gigantic Mitt Romney for president signs. This was like, during the election. But I remember driving up there going like, and Obama is the real enemy of our country. Like these big ass billboards where people had put up, not just like a thought that they had, but they wanted to project it out to everybody driving up there buying apples or whatever the fuck they're buying.
Right. Apples or meth.
Yeah, or meth. What part of Orange County from?
Corona Del Mar area.
That's like super right wing, right?
Very. Yeah, it was very
Bunch
homogenous.
of white people.
Very, very white. Very blonde, very blue-eyed.
It's a
very
good place
athletic.
to get filler.
Yes.
Get a
It
lot
really
of filler
is.
up there.
That's their cash crop.
Very
Juvederm.
athletic? Is that what you said?
Yes, very athletic.
In what way?
Just that the kids that I went to school with were just very good at sports, and they valued that. And I definitely did not feel like I fit in. I was round and soft and pasty, and I had black hair and brown eyes, and just could not keep up. I always joke that it was like a Leni Riefenstahl wet dream there. It was just very the pride of white people there. And I resented growing up there. And then once I got older, I realized I realized why my parents moved there, because I was born in Oakland, and apparently it was getting kind of rough. So they fled with the rest of the white people to Orange County, where it's incredibly safe and everything's manicured and the schools are nice, and it's safe being the prominent thing, I think. And growing up, I was like, why the fuck would you choose this place where we're so different in every way than everyone here? I didn't get it. And then, as an adult, I go back and I see it's nice and it is peaceful and it is calm, and I get why you'd want to raise your kids there.
It is weird that you get these groups of white people together and they just calm the fuck down.
They do. I'm just looking to sit with a bunch of other white people and calm down.
I'm doing the Irvine Improv this weekend, and Irvine's like the safest city in America, like fucking 100 years running or something crazy.
I grew up in a boring town, and I thought Irvine was more boring.
It's more boring, but it's a great place to do stand-up. Nice folks.
Yeah.
I'm excited. What was your path to get on like the Adam Carolla show? What was your path to get into podcasting?
Okay, so I started writing for magazines and newspapers very young. And
how old were you?
I was 18, and I did some stuff for the LA Times.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
You must be a fucking bang-up writer.
Thank you. I'm okay with words and
you
stuff.
Must be. 18?
I thought I was good. I was very in love with myself. And I was like, LA Times today, my stars just, I really thought as a freelancer, because then I went to college, freelanced all through college, came back to Orange County, began writing for People and for Rolling Stone, and it happened fast, and I was young, and I was like, there's just no stopping me. And I didn't realize that, like, no, it kind of just it's not like I do this today and then cover a Vanity Fair tomorrow. Like, first of all, there's only so far I'm going to be able to get if I'm staying in Orange County. And I ended up, like I said, playing in a band, writing for the OC Weekly while
What'd
still
you do in the
freelancing.
band?
I played guitar.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm. I played drums too. I was the drummer initially, and there were 3 of us. And I was like, don't get too in love with me because I'm not staying in Orange County. I moved back to Orange County and I was there for 5 years after college. And the entire time I was like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. This is not what I want to do with my life. I'm sure I was such an unpleasant asshole to be around.
Do you live in Los Feliz now? Are you one of those?
No, I've changed. But back then, yeah, it was like, on year 4 of the band, like, don't get too used to this. I'm not staying here.
This place is lame.
Yeah, and especially I feel bad because a couple of the people in the band, they're still in bands. Like, they really wanted to make this happen. And I was like, this is just my stupid little thing I'm doing on the side while I'm pursuing what I'm really trying to pursue. I don't know. College, I love the college I went to. I'm glad I went to college. I believe in college, but I also think it can make you a little bit insufferable. And that's who I was when I graduated. So I was writing. At a certain point, I was like, the life that I want to lead is headed this way, but the one I'm leading is going this way, and I've got to bridge the gap. So I moved to New York. I made the decision to move to New York. And then 9/11 happened like 6 days after I made the decision. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going anyway, even though No, I'm glad I did, though.
And what was the thought process behind New York?
It's
the most cosmopolitan, most happening.
For writing, because that was my, writing for magazines was my thing, and writing in general, it was kind of it was where all that took place. Like, all the people that I was talking to when I was freelancing for national magazines were based in New York. It just seemed like the place to go for that. It also, I wanted to be in a city. And I remember my band toured, and I met this guy, and I was walking around San Francisco, and San Francisco felt like such a city to me. And I was like, I really want to be in a place that has the feel of a city. And I met this guy who worked at the venue that we were playing, and he was telling me that he was moving to Brooklyn because San Francisco just wasn't enough of a city for him. And I remember that was blowing my mind, because I was like, this feels like such a city to me. If this isn't a city enough, like, what am I doing in these cow pastures in Orange County? So I made the decision to move, and then eventually moved, and I was there for about 9 years. First couple years, much more difficult than I thought. And it was, I felt weirdly insecure, and I hadn't expected to feel socially insecure, but I had left everything I knew. I left the band. Like, I didn't know where I fit in suddenly. Especially after having been in the band, like my whole life during the time I was in the band and also I wrote about music before I was ever in the band. So my life was going to shows or playing shows, and I had a group of friends and a community that I really missed once I left them. So then I was in New York, and I was like, I don't have friends, and I don't have a job, and I'm freelancing, but it's not enough. I don't know what I'm doing, and I feel very alone, and I feel uncomfortable and weird. Thankfully, that went away. It just took longer than I thought it would. Got a job at Time Out New York, where I worked for a number of years. And while I was at Time Out New York, they were looking for editors to go on television to talk about events going on in the city. So I said, I'm like, I'll do it. And it was Channel 4, so WNBC. They really liked me, and they wanted me to keep coming back and doing it every Saturday morning. Initially they were going to have a group of editors doing it, and they decided they just wanted me, which I thought was great, because I was so destined for greatness. I'm like, it's all happening. That's how I felt. I hope it's clear that I'm trying to be self-deprecating. I worry I'm coming off as an asshole. Anyway, I began doing that a lot, and I realized I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that performance element, I guess. I liked going on camera. Started doing other TV stuff. And then I was aware of YouTube, and I was experimenting with YouTube, and I was putting my television clips, because I started doing a lot of news stuff. I was putting my television clips on YouTube, and then I don't know what made me decide one day, like, what if I just recorded myself doing some book reviews? Or what if I just talked, did question and answer, like talked directly to my little bit of an audience that I'm beginning to have because I had a blog as well. And so I did that, and the response to that was so overwhelming. I was like, oh, people don't care if it's polished when you're dealing with the internet. It's more about the immediacy, and it's more about you talking to them. So I started getting into that, started doing various web shows. And then I created a show called Alison Rosen is Your New Best Friend on Ustream. And I would do that. It was a talk show from my living room that I would do for 3 hours every Sunday evening. And it was not that dissimilar, there's so many negatives in that sentence, from the podcast that I have now. That's where I started a lot of the segments that I do now, was on that show. And by the way, I remember when I was Ustreaming, you were also on Ustream. And oftentimes on the front page of Ustream, it would have me and you, way back when.
Crazy, man.
Mm-hmm. Are you still on Ustream?
Yeah. We don't stream on Ustream anymore.
Right.
Because we were doing it, and we're trying to do it simultaneously with YouTube, but there's something wrong with our TriCaster.
I see.
Still sucks, right? Doesn't really want to do it.
It would work. It's just not solid, and then one will drop off and
it crashes.
Right.
Control.
So we had to choose one platform.
Yeah.
And the thing about YouTube is YouTube lets you pause and it lets you backtrack while you're actually watching it. Ustream doesn't support that feature.
Right.
And there's more users that are watching YouTube, so we just decided to jump ship.
Yeah. I had begun to wonder, is the audience there for online streaming visual stuff in the same way that they're there for podcasts? I remember listening, I was friends with Doug Benson and listening to his podcast, and I got this curiosity about podcasts. And then I heard that Adam Carolla was looking for a newsgirl. And I was still in New York at the time. And I tried to send them my stuff, and I didn't hear anything. And I'm like, okay, well, I did what I can, and no one's getting back to me. And then very rapidly, someone in my family got sick, and I moved from New York to California to be with them because it turns out that person is actually doing very well now. But at the time, it wasn't clear what direction it was going to go, and so it didn't make sense to stay in New York when this was happening. So I moved back kind of suddenly. And then around the time that I was lying on my parents' couch being like, what the hell did I do? Why did I don't think that I made the right move in coming back. I got an email from Mike August, and I think the entire message was in the subject line. And it was just like, Adam Carolla show this day, this time, can you come in? And I said, sure. So I did, and I auditioned, and then they narrowed it down to 4 of us, and then I auditioned again, and then I got the job.
Oh,
so
there you go.
it was nice.
Do you like doing your own thing better?
I began doing my own thing while I was still there, and I really enjoy doing my own thing. Yeah. I also really liked being on that show too. I'm grateful for the 4 years that I had there, and there's a lot of positive memories, also a fair amount of things that I think that was fucked up. But
you can't just say that.
Of what I just did.
But if you do, you have to elaborate. You don't have to. I don't want you to.
I feel like you do want me to.
And I don't. I don't want you to do what you don't want to
do. Whenever I talk about it, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. Whenever I talk about, I was thinking about this today because I was thinking about this show and if it was going to come up or not. Whenever I talk about all the stuff that happened on that show near the end, when I was no longer on the show, I simultaneously afterwards wish I had said nothing and wish I had said more. It's so weird. And I was like, why do I have those dual competing feelings? And I think the reason is because I have mixed feelings about the whole thing. There's part of me that's so thankful for my time on the show and thankful that I was given that opportunity, and, we toured and I learned so much and I had the best time and all that. And then there's part of me that's like, hey, fuck you for not respecting me enough as a human being to have a conversation with me. I sat next to you for 4 years.
Oh, you mean about the way you were dismissed?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, that makes sense.
I think that I still have mixed feelings about everything, but I'm aware of how fortunate I was, and I'm grateful for so much. And I also feel like there were certain elements of it that I think were fucked up, like I said. So where was I going with all that though?
You were talking about the bad aspects of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, you were saying, do I like doing my own thing?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. but there's elements I miss.
Well, you were good on the show. I remember
Thank you.
That's where we met, the times that I thought you and I had some interesting exchanges were on the show where you were really tuned in. Like, I feel like I really love Adam, but I feel like Adam is like you go over a guy's house and there's just a bunch of locked doors. And you can hang out with him in the living room. When it's time to leave, you leave, and you never get to see what's in those locked doors.
You don't always feel like or ever feel like you connect.
Yeah. But that's just him, it's his personality.
Yes.
He's just, that's who, and there's like, he's got that radio persona or the TV persona, whatever the fuck it is. And it's like, this is his range. This is where he's going down, and so when you and I would have conversations on the show, one of the things that I liked is like you would ask like these provocative questions, you would probe and do things that I don't think necessarily he does, I thought it was an interesting mixture.
Thank you.
Guys together.
Yeah, I thought so too. So it was a surprise to me to find out that he was unhappy.
Did you guys argue or anything?
No. Do you mean on air?
Yeah,
or
either one.
Never off air. Everything was always really cordial, and I honestly thought everything was fine. I thought everything was good. I thought we were in a good place. Like, I was very, very surprised to find out that how wrong I was about how he was feeling about everything. And I only found that out because I was fired. And then he did an episode where he talked about everything, and it was like I was kind of blown away by all the and I didn't listen to it for a while, but people were tweeting me. A lot of people were tweeting me these things like, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? And I'm like, I didn't do any of that. Like, that is all, it's not true. And it was.
When you're saying that, you have to explain what you're talking about.
Okay. I'm trying to think of like one of the shining examples. Well.
Is this going to be one of those simultaneous things?
Yes.
Simultaneously
it is,
too
because
much
I think
and not
the part
enough?
that makes me the most uncomfortable is getting into the weeds with all the details because it just sounds so petty. It's
Then
like,
don't talk about it.
Okay.
It's okay. You don't
Yeah.
have to bring it up. It's no big deal.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I would
it's
say
weird
no.
though. I don't know why I'm so afraid to get to talk about it either.
Well, you know that there's going to be a bunch of people that have opinions.
Yes.
And it's all going to come down on both sides. There's going to be supportive people and there's going to be negative people.
Right.
And then they're going to try to tweet it at them. This fucking bitch is saying a bunch of stuff. You gave her an opportunity.
And she's not getting
over.
yes, exactly. Like, I'm not grateful, and she's not getting over it either. I feel like they're going to say that.
How long ago was it that you left?
It was very tail end of 2014.
Yeah, get over it. It's 2 years.
Well, that's the funny thing is that I am totally over it, but it does come up,
it's going to.
on things like podcasts.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's got a giant show.
Yeah.
It's going to come up.
Honestly, it was a good thing for me to go off on my own.
Were you starting to go off on your own while you were doing his show? Were you doing another show from his studio thing? Because he's got like a bunch of different little.
I was doing my show on his network.
Oh, and then you stopped. And you stopped and started doing it on your own.
Well, I got kicked off of. I got the boot.
And they kicked you off the network too.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I was surprised by that as well. It was just a whole like, we're done with you.
Wow.
So I began doing my show on my own, and
did it make you re-examine
yes.
how you do your show?
Oh, in what way?
Did you try to like? Was there a part of you that was like, okay, is there something about me that's annoying? Is there something about me that's grating? Like, what is you know what I'm saying?
Like why did this happen?
Well, you know what I said to you early in the podcast where I could tell, I go, well, there's a podcaster's mind, because you're like worrying some people are going to look at this, they're going to approach it a certain way. Like, you're constantly examining, if you're trying to do a podcast, you're constantly examining, okay, am I talking too much? Is this boring? Is this repetitive? Like, how do I juice this up? How do I make this exciting? When you recovered from that and you're like, okay, now I'm on my own, like, does it make you tentative? Do you say, okay, I have to maybe be less bold, or maybe more cautious, or maybe more aware?
I think that all the extra attention that was on me after it happened made me speak in the way that I'm speaking right now, which is super unnatural and really halting and examining every word before I say it. It did. Because, okay, now I'm just going to talk about some of it. Immediately afterwards, when there were all these people people tweeting at me like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? Blah, 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 blah. I wanted to be set the record straight. And someone a mentor someone that I look up to, but who doesn't come from podcasting, who comes from old media, was like, don't take the bait, Alison. Don't do it. Mm-hmm. Like when the dust settles, do not get in there. Just take the high road, because everyone can see what's happening. And like that night I had planned to be like, here's my side of the story. Here's my response to this, to this, to this, to this. Like I was going to get into it because there was so much untruth out there. And I had very simple, like, no, this, let me read. Here's the email. Here's what this said. Here's this. This is not the way it went down. You guys are getting a distorted version of things. But then I listened to this guy, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So I am just going to say thank you for the great time that I had on the show, and I wish you the best. And I did that. And then for the next 2 months, I chafed against that, because it's like, I agree that is a great position to take. But if you have an audience, if you have a podcast, that podcast, depending on the kind of podcast you have, but for the most part, it's predicated on the relationship you have with the listeners and the fact that you are honest with them and you're transparent and you're your authentic, genuine self. So all of a sudden, I did not know how to be my authentic, genuine self while also trying to be like to not discuss this thing that was such a big thing, obviously. And so I was kind of like vacillating and going back and forth and being authentic in every way other than this one topic that I wasn't talking about. And then at a certain point, I'm like, why am I not talking about it? It feels so weird to not be talking about it. So then I finally did talk about it, and it was a couple months later. But that specifically is the thing where I'm like, I wish I had never said any of that. And
but
I
you're
wish I had
talking
said
about it
more.
now, though. But
I'm talking
you're
around
diving.
it. I'm talking around it.
Yeah, but even in doing so, you're still discussing it.
Yeah.
You're spending an inordinate amount of time like thinking about it and discussing it.
Right.
So you and I had discussed it too.
Right.
And my thoughts were pretty much the same. Just don't bother.
Yeah.
Just kick ass. Go do your shit. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And people, there's going to be times where people just don't. It doesn't work. It doesn't gel. Maybe it gelled for you more than it gelled for him, or maybe the opportunity was better for you than it was for him.
Right.
It's people shouldn't be forced to have to work together, especially in show business.
I 100% agree with, by the way. In no way was I ever like, he shouldn't have made this decision.
Seems
it's
weird
not fair,
to me that he kicked you off his network, though. That doesn't make any sense. That seems like there was something more to it. Because if you guys stopped working together and he just kept you on his network and helped promote you and pumped you up, that seems more amicable. Like it makes sense. It seems
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying about how it didn't make sense to me. It's like he is pissed, and I don't know why.
Oh, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
do your own show.
That's what I'm. I
That's
think
what you did.
I'll start doing that.
You've already been doing it.
Yeah.
How's it going? Are you
it's
enjoying
going
it?
really well.
You're doing it twice a week?
Yeah, twice a week. Monday is a one-on-one, and Thursday there's a panel of us, and it's going really well, and I really like it, and everything's good.
Well, there you go. Mm-hmm. Just don't worry about it.
I'm not worrying about it.
But you are, because you talked about it, right?
When I talk about it, I worry about the fact that I just talked about it, and I can't get to the bottom of why that is. I mean, like I said before, I think it's because I'm of different minds about it, but it might just be because there's so much immediate online response anytime I dance around it.
That's one of the more difficult things about anything that you're putting out there, whether it's a talk show or a podcast or fucking even an album or anything. It's the navigating the response and the social media response, which is just so different than the response that you would have gotten a few decades ago or a decade ago. It's so different. It's a different world, and no one knows exactly how to handle it.
Right.
I mean, they can give you really good advice, but no one's done it. No one said, well, in the 30 years of my career, when Twitter came along, they don't really have that to say. So you can, in the paralysis by analysis.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, what you're just talking about. That's a fighting term.
Yeah.
Like you analyze things too much when you're fighting and you freeze up and you don't know what to do. He who hesitates is lost. So when you're unfortunately incapable of being yourself because you're worrying about criticism, that's also something that cunts want. They want to be able to fuck with you to the point where I see her. Alison reads my tweets. I see her. She worries about what she says now because of me. And then they're like, yeah, good job on Rogan's podcast, you fucking dumb bitch. Talk about yourself much?
Yeah.
Like,
oh, no, I'm sure.
Oh, easy.
Right.
And then you think about that the next time you talk, and then they creep into your head. And
that's why I try to not expose, to the degree that I can, I try not to expose myself to it, because I think to myself, this is not helping me to be good at anything. This is not making a better show when I do my own show. This is making me concerned that these 18 idiots are upset with something,
Well, it can give you a different perspective. Occasionally someone can say something that will illuminate some aspects of your own behavior that maybe you weren't aware of. It is possible. But it's also possible that you can tap into a river of cunts and just drown. And you can also you become.
I've swum in those rivers. Swam.
Span around. Did you see that video that I posted the other day about one of the most dangerous rivers in the world? And it's insanely deceptive. I tweeted it yesterday, I believe. This is crazy. It's this place in England, and it's this river that, if you look at it, it looks like a calm, just sort of meandering river. Just doesn't look like anything exceptional, but the way it's cut into the ground, what you're seeing is not the entire river. There's an underlying aspect of it with torrential currents. So if you get stuck in it, if you go in it, you literally can't escape.
Jeez.
You get smashed up against the rocks and you get killed. Like, here, play this.
Oh, yeah, it looks so placid.
Yeah, look at this. Play it, Jamie.
I reckon it is the most dangerous stretch of water anywhere on Earth.
How crazy is that?
That's a bold claim.
Yeah, it looks so calm.
There are certainly rivers.
What's the name of this video?
More lives, and there are rapids and waterfalls.
The most dangerous stretch of water in the world. The Strid, is that what it says? The
Strid at Bolton.
Strid at Bolton.
In the middle of some woods, you could jump over it. People occasionally do, but if you miss that jump, it'll kill you. This is what the river looks like about 100 metres upstream. Same river, all that water went down. Thanks to the local geology, the river basically turns on its side, gouging out passages and tunnels in the rocks below. Those banks are actually overhangs. There isn't any riverbed just below the surface. It's a deep, boiling mass of fast and deadly currents. There are claims that falling in has a 100% fatality rate. There's no way to confirm that, of course, because a local person doesn't die in river, doesn't make the news, but it has claimed a lot of lives. There are even tales from the 12th century of a young boy set to be the future King of Scotland who died trying to jump across those waters. And anything or anyone that falls in might not come out in any recognisable form. It could just get pulverised against the rocks underwater over and over and over again. I'd try and put a camera in, but then I'd have to get close to the edge. And the edge isn't sharp, it just curves towards the water and it's covered in slippery moss. Besides, the water is opaque and brown with peat stain. You'd see nothing. Is it survivable?
It's one of those things where you really have to look at it. So if people listening to this, go and check out the video. What is it? Is it on Vimeo? What is it on? It's on YouTube. The video is much better representation because what they do is they show you what the river looks like at its widest part, which is enormous, and then it cuts down into a small area that you can jump across. And it's so much water rolling through such a small area that it creates this intense current and just fucking bizarre, right?
But it's like an optical illusion because it just looks like a stream.
Yeah, it looks like nothing.
Flowing, yeah.
Meanwhile, it's super deep and raging underneath it, and you just can't.
It's like the subconscious.
Ooh, deep, a river of cunts. But I mean, that's like, in a lot of ways, That's what you're dealing with. I don't know how we got to that. But that's what it was, right? River of cunts. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Even for them, the people that are doing that, a lot of times they don't even realize the harm they're doing to themselves and their own psyche by just lashing out at people. I went to this guy's page yesterday. He was tweeting at someone I know, like some really negative shit. And I went to his page, and his entire Twitter page was just him shitting on various famous people and trying to get them to respond to him. I'm like, what a bizarre life.
Right.
And also, it's got to be incredibly damaging to your self-esteem to be just constantly lashing out at famous people and trying to get them to respond to you, just trying to insult them, trying to troll them.
Right.
Bizarre. So,
It always makes me wonder, is it young people? Is it like people who are in that phase of life where you're young and you're angry?
some of them.
And you just need an outlet. Some of them, yeah.
Some of them, it's older men. Some of it's men, like if you ever ran into a man who's like in his 50s, never had a family, never been married, there's a weirdness to those folks.
Yeah.
There's a real weirdness to these older, set in their ways guys that never really settled down with anybody. You'll run into them occasionally, and you're like, whoa, they're like you're surviving without a heart. Like you know what I mean? You're like one of these people you're missing organs or something like that. You're missing a critical aspect of what it means to be a person.
Right. I noticed a fair amount of hate that I was getting. This is years ago. I noticed a pattern that I would oftentimes discover. Like I would get some shitty comment, and then I would go to the person's page, and they had a newborn, and it was like a lot of brand new dads, and that really surprised me. That like it's brand new dads who are writing shitty things. Yeah. And my husband's theory is like, yeah, because they're not getting sex. So.
Well, that's a weird theory.
I know,
right?
right?
I would think it's more that they're tired. I would say it's
well,
more.
I think his theory, yes, they're tired and there's been this huge change in their relationship.
Or they're just assholes and the baby didn't cure it. I
Right.
can't. The thing that was most overwhelming to me having a baby was like how compassionate I felt for other people. How I felt like, oh, these other people that are all fucked up are just babies. Mm-hmm. They were babies that were just exposed to the wrong stimuli, the wrong life, the wrong emotions, the wrong family, the wrong schools. And then here you are, a raging twat at 30.
Yeah.
That's a lot of human beings. I mean, we're essentially long-running equations. All of our life experiences and interactions calculated to Alison Rosen 2016. I mean, that's really what it is. It's like, that's why it's interesting when you sit here and you tell me about your life experience, born in, Oakland, moving to Orange County. I got to get out of here. I'm in a band, but I'm going to leave. Now I'm in New York. And, and then all these different interactions and different engagements. And then boom, now you're here and you're the sum total of these experiences and your reflections on these experiences. And it's one of the reasons why people that have lived fucked up lives are the most interesting. And people that have these mundane, self-absorbed existences are the most boring because they really haven't had the trials and tribulations. They really haven't had those moments where they had to question themselves and try to figure out what the fuck they're doing with themselves. When you do that and you hit those low points and then rebound, that's where life's lessons happen.
I agree.
And it's kind of weird as a parent because I don't want my kids to face adversity.
Yeah.
I want my kids to have a really fun time. But I also know that unless they do face disappointment and some adversity, at least some, they're not going to get a full handle on how to manage those waters. When they do fall into the river of cunts, they won't know what to do. It's like I swim in the river of cunts freely. Mm-hmm. I've been around them for so long now. It's just you're not gonna fuck with my zen that easy. But if I lived an entirely sheltered life, how much of my resilience would I have? And how much resilience do people have where they don't experience life outside of their very small existence, their very small community, their very small pattern of life experiences?
Right. That sort of letting my kids go through adversity that part I know is going to be hard for me because I'm the kind of person where, like, if there's someone in the corner that has an itch, I'm like, let me come over and scratch it for you. I don't want you to feel discomfort. Like, I'm very tuned into, I mean,
Are you going to be a helicopter parent?
God, I hope not. I don't.
Well,
I just
older women when they have children later in life, that's when they're most likely
to helicopter.
parents. There's a lot of helicopter parents in my kid's school.
I probably will be.
Like,
I want to be the right level of helicopter parent to, like, keep my kids safe and happy, but not fuck them up with bean smothering.
right. It's hard.
That's going to be the challenge for me, I think.
It's tough action. It's interesting. Everybody does it different, and kids come out different. And then there's also, like, my two kids are so fucking dissimilar. They're so dissimilar.
What's the age difference?
One of them is almost 7, or one of them is actually just turned 8, rather, and one of them is almost 6.
Mm-hmm.
So out of the box, the 6-year-old is the one who eats candy and becomes a barbarian. She's so much different. She's 6 soon, but she's so much different than her sister. They're just so different.
Mm-hmm.
And they grew up in the same loving household, same amount of attention, same amount of resources. You know, obviously slightly different life experiences. You know, different, of course, different friends, different things. But it's not just that. It's the innate personality. Like, they come out of the box different.
Well, that's something I wonder. I mean, when you're saying that sitting here, I'm the sum total of everything I've experienced. Yes. But I also think, how much is just genetic? Like,
It's definitely there too.
Yeah.
It's also the variabilities. Like, it's not just genetics that are variable. It's like those genetics vary. You know, like brothers and sisters are different. Like, in some parents, I wonder what the combination is. Like, how much of your husband is going to be in your kid, and how much of it's you? And is it a 50-50 split?
Right.
Or do your...
And how much is that other guy?
Yeah. Ooh. And do your genes just dominate his? Like, you know, you ever seen, like, a person who's blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and the kid doesn't look anything like him? Like, oh, your genes got dominated
Right.
by the other genes.
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting.
My sister, who has the same coloring as I do, has a blonde, blue-eyed baby.
Whoa.
And it's so weird. Her
Whoa.
husband is blonde and blue-eyed, but it's like, I just believed that the dark genes would dominate, and they did not.
Viking genes took over.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. Can happen. It's interesting also, not just that, like, the genetic variables, which are truly fascinating, personality variables, all these different things, but also how they interact with each other, which is going to be so much different than how you interact with them, and watching kids interact with each other and getting annoyed at each other and trying to work that out, and watching their own little personality disputes that they have and how they navigate those, and little tools they have. Like, my youngest one cries at everything. Everything's like, I can't believe she did that. And she'll like go way overboard, and I'm like, settle down, relax. You know, because they figure out, like, if I cry, I get hugs and someone picks me up, and so that's the move. So anything that goes wrong, I'm just gonna start crying. So, like, I'll watch her. Like, she'll do something wrong, her sister will get pissed at her, and then she'll run away crying that her sister did something. Like, whoa, hold on. I just watched it. I watched that whole thing go down. That's not how it went down. Yes, it is. And then the cries will get bigger, and so it becomes like, you don't want your kid to be a crybaby. You also want your kid to recognize that you know exactly what went on, but you also want to let them know that it's okay. So that's where I've always gone to I did the exact same thing when I was your age. And I think that's a big one, like letting them know, and then, you know, not letting it go too. No harp on it. Just let it go. All right, come on, give me a hug. Let's go play with some stuff. Like, let it go. Because they learn themselves. They see themselves that things don't work. They see themselves, they got called out on their manipulation. Like, oh, ran my crying game, and I got shut down today. But no one's getting mad, you know, so it's not like I'm a terrible person, I need to feel awful, but that crying game don't work on daddy.
Yeah, I like that, the idea that the stakes aren't that high.
Yeah.
I think I grew up with the feeling at all times that the stakes were very high.
Yeah.
And I have parents who have that the stakes are high attitude towards everything, where it's like, the stakes are very low here.
Yes.
But they're just very, you know, prone to anxiety and prone to overreacting people. So
It's also those stakes are entirely dependent upon like what's the full extent of the possibilities that things can go right or wrong.
Right, like what's the worst that could happen? And,
Right.
and if it's not a big deal, then so it happens, just you'll fix it.
Right, but it's a perspective issue. If you're living in the Congo, whatever issue came up wouldn't come up at all. Like I guarantee you, these people that are like trying to find water don't look at their nose and go, "God, I've got to figure out a way to get out of the Congo and get to Beverly Hills, get my fucking nose fixed."
You
'Cause
keep
this
talking
bump
about my
is
nose.
bullshit.
It's
I'm not
making
talking about
me-
your nose.
You're talking about my nose.
Nope, I'm talking about a Congo person's nose. You're just making it about you.
You're talking about my nose, and I get what you're saying. You're telling me that you think I should get plastic surgery. I think it's that's what I'm getting from this.
I felt like the entire time I was on Joe Rogan's podcast, he was judging my nose, and I don't want to talk about it, but I don't want to talk about it. So it's like one of those things where I feel like I could say too much or too little
On the one hand,
simultaneously.
Thank you for talking about my nose. But hey, I didn't like the way you talked about my nose.
The fucking entire podcast was a thinly veiled slight at my nose. I mean, he asked
And
me
now
questions.
I go online and people are tweeting me half-truths about my nose.
You know what people are going to do? They're going to subtly Photoshop your nose just slightly bigger. And you're going to look at the picture like, oh my God, do I look like that? And then you're going to go to the bathroom and look at your nose and go, what the fuck?
Well, thank you for giving them this bang-up idea.
Well, I know this guy who photoshops his radio personality, and he takes him and he does like these subtle weird things to his face. He makes his teeth bigger, and he makes him balder, and he makes his hands smaller, and he makes his shoulders like more narrow, but just slightly. Well, you look at him and you go, what the
gaslighting him.
fuck is going on with him? And it drives the radio guy, I think, probably crazy.
Does he know the guy's doing it, though? Or does he just think that he's becoming disproportional?
Yeah, I think he knows.
Okay.
Well, some of the pictures of the guy's more obvious, and some of them he's more subtle. But it's the fact that that's not what he really looks like. But the fact that someone could take what you look like and make it different,
But just slightly.
will fuck with you.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird. It's weird. You know, it's weird that you know your ears aren't too big, but if somebody like stretches your ears out just a little bit and makes them poke out of your hair, you're like,
Right.
what the fuck? What's going on with my ears? Like, the Photoshop thing is a weird thing. Mm-hmm. It's weird that people could do that. It's also weird that people use it to manipulate their own image.
Right.
Like, I know
Like
a fucking
face tuning.
male comedian who smooths his skin out and does like a glamour filter on his pictures.
So bad.
Fake as fuck.
Yes.
It looks bizarre. Like super. And then you see him in real life, you're like, hey, what the fuck? What are you?
Right. Do you have chicken pox since
Yeah.
last time I saw your photos?
Did you get in a fight with a fucking salt gun? I think those things, the ability to manipulate faces and the Photoshop thing and what they do to models, you know, where they thin out their waists and widen their
Right.
butts, and you know, if you've seen those reality versus the Photoshopped
Yes,
images,
it's always overwhelming the amount of
Crazy.
stuff that's changed. And then I wish I could remember what I was watching, but it was something where they were showing that they can do this to moving images. So movies, you know, like they showed the real version of the actress in whatever movie versus what you saw on screen, and it was sort of the equivalent of the photoshopped magazine cover.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get to a point very soon where actors are unnecessary. Because if you look at some of the incredible CGI that they're able to do now, where they're so close to absolutely recreating a human being,
Yeah.
they're not going to need actors. Maybe voiceover actors to just, and then even that, maybe they'll get to their point where their visual or their audio software can manipulate the human voice
Yeah.
in the same way that you could do with music software, where you could use GarageBand and create
Right.
songs without knowing any guitars.
So actors who are listening, time to start a podcast.
Ha! It's almost over, bitches. But it's not, because you're never going to be able to recreate like a Daniel Day-Lewis. You're
Right.
never like someone who can go that deep into something. It's almost like until he does it, you don't know it can be done. You know, his intense commitment to a character is it's so bizarre, and it's also part of what you love about watching that guy in a movie is that you know that's Daniel Day-Lewis. You know, doing that not First Blood. What is it called? In There Will Be Blood. There Will Be Blood character. Like, you know that's him. You know that's Daniel Day-Lewis. But you also completely believe he's this fucking guy.
Right.
And it's half of the thrill. It's not just that someone it does the Cirque du Soleil. You know, like look at the guy flip. It's you know that's a person that had to practice that, and they had to get so proficient that they could do something that looks impossible.
And then do it line by line out of order.
Yeah.
That's something I was thinking about recently.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think my conception of acting is almost like comes from a theater world where it's like you put on a costume and then you go be a different person for 2 hours or whatever,
Right.
like a theater movie amalgam. But I shot this pilot recently, and everything was shot out of order, as things are when they're shot, and it kind of gave me this insight into like, so much of the skill is just your ability to pick it up out of order and act it out, even though it's so piecemeal.
Yeah. Well, when Daniel Day-Lewis did the Lincoln movie, apparently he was in character as Lincoln the entire time, talked to people as Lincoln, everything he did as Lincoln. He ate as Lincoln, went to bed as Lincoln, woke up as Lincoln.
That's crazy.
It's a little much.
I agree.
Probably a nutty dude to hang around with.
Yes.
Probably super annoying in that way.
Does Christian Bale do that kind of stuff too? You hear
in
stories.
some way. I mean, you saw The Machinist. Did you ever see that movie? You never saw that?
No, I know I should though. It's on my list.
Do you know what he did?
He lost a whole bunch of weight, right?
No, but he got to death's door. I mean, literally got to death's door. He looked like an Auschwitz victim. I mean, it's I don't know how a person allows themselves to do that.
There we are.
That's not a good image, Jamie. That's not a real image from the movie. That's like a digital recreation. That's him for real.
Oh
in the
yeah,
movie.
I seen that picture.
What the fuck, man?
Ugh.
I mean, he got to the point where his body was shriveled away. He had no body fat, and he was dying. He played a guy with severe insomnia that started to have hallucinations and was losing his fucking mind. Really crazy shit. But that someone takes it to that level. But that's like one of the badges of honor when it comes to those types of actors. Like
Right.
Robert De Niro used to do that. Remember in Raging Bull? Like he got in incredible shape. He got really lean, looked like a boxer, and then for the end of the movie, got really fat. And he played like Jake LaMotta, all swollen and filled with spaghetti.
But who was it who had that famous quip who's like, why don't you just try acting?
Yeah, I forget who it was. I want to say Laurence Olivier.
That's what I want to say too. Let's just say it, whether it's true or not.
Yeah, but meanwhile, what if Sir Laurence Olivier played Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull? Would it have sucked? Would it not been as good?
I suspect it would not have been as good.
It probably would not have been.
Yeah.
I mean, like when he played that guy in Cape Fear, I mean, to get in the kind of shape that he got in, remember when he was doing those chin-ups and, he's like, "Argh!" Like you believe that he was this rage-filled ex-con that was coming to get revenge. Like it seems like he approached life that way. It wasn't just that he was acting.
Right.
It's like he had adopted this mindset and had it fully ingrained into who he was portraying on the screen. It's why those movies are so good.
Well, maybe that is the difference between, superstar, powerhouse, really compelling acting and just sort of average acting, is that they really are living it versus they are acting it out in a moment.
Yeah. I mean, you have to take it to the utmost. But that's also why it's so frustrating to watch Robert De Niro in The Intern. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Did you see that?
No. I watched the clips of it on an airplane. I was like, what the fuck am I? Took my headphones off. What the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
Stupid ass movie. But it's just like, this is a guy that was a part of like some of the great cinematic masterpieces. He was in The Godfather. He was in Raging Bull. I mean, he just like, the list goes on. Taxi Driver. I mean, he was in some fucking masterpieces.
Meet the Fockers. Oh. Wasn't he in that?
Yeah, that's probably where it started.
Yeah.
He probably realized like, I don't even have to act. Just remember these stupid words they want me to say and just get some fat money. Huh? Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like, I feel like Al Pacino has just become a caricature of Al Pacino.
Well, he has a rant, like clause in every contract. Where's my rent? He's got a rant in every fucking movie. It all started from that Devil movie where he played the devil. Remember? He had to go on that long-ass rant as the devil. Come on. As if the devil would have some verbose bullshit-ass rant.
Right. The devil doesn't need words.
Yeah.
Oh, but he's good at words.
The devil just eat a plate of babies in front of you. He doesn't have to say anything.
And shit fire.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got to get out of here, Alison Rosen. This is fun.
Thank
do
you
it
so
again.
much. I would love to.
And people can get your podcast everywhere, right?
Yes, iTunes.com/Alison Rosen or AlisonRosen.com or everywhere.
Everywhere, fuckers. So wherever you are, Alison Rosen is your best friend.
Is your new best friend, but
New
also
best
your
friend.
best friend. Yeah.
Well, okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. See you next week, you fucks.